afternoon, all, and welcome to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. I'm your host, Sal Greco. Thank you all for tuning in. I see everybody already in the comments starting up. Good afternoon to Matt, to 92 Charlie, 1804 Banks, William Rogers, Sleepy Joe, the usual suspects in the chat. All good people. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like, share, subscribe button, hit the notification button as well. If you're watching on Rumble, hit the like button, hit the Rumble button. If you're watching on X right now, streaming all over the world, please hit the like button, share this out, especially to those friends of yours that you know are in that low information bubble. There's plenty of them. I'm going to get to something in about 2 seconds that's going to reaffirm low information people and voters and why they're the cause of all the problems in New York City right now. So first off, I want to say it's bitterly cold across the country. Even over here in South Florida, it was only 50 degrees waking up. I think it's snowing. It did some flurries up north, but there's a little bit of a cold front. Everyone will survive. Just like you'll survive Mamdani as mayor, you'll survive the cold front. There's no reason to panic. I know some people out there saying some crazy things too, but today, though, is Veterans Day, so I like to give we need to take a moment and just honor everyone, all the armed forces, everyone in the Marines. I know people give them a hard time and always joke around with them, but especially the Marines, the Navy, the Army. And there is our favorite Marine. That's Eric Dim. Eric Dimsman, if you don't know, during Veterans Day, he goes away. He gets together with all the guys. I think he's been since Friday. He's been together, everybody. So hopefully he'll be back tomorrow on tomorrow's Finest Unfiltered in the morning. But he's been away. You know, he's a veteran. It's an honor to have someone like Eric serve this country and then serve the police department, serve New York City. So shout out to Eric and to all in the military. I think honoring you for one day it should be a lot more. And I think that some don't honor you the way they should. But shout out to all the military. Today is your day, but it's really the entire country owes you a debt of gratitude. So now I want to show you something before I get to sorry, you're right, Joel, the Air Force too. Sorry, I didn't mean to forget the Air Force, since we're going to have someone who's actually a pilot today on. So, but yeah, something I want to show you. You know, I've been telling you all the 3-card Mamdani, whether you got Zoran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, or Eric Adams as the mayor of New York City, it was the same thing. So I like to show you, courtesy of New York One last night. This is Melissa DeRosa, Andrew Cuomo's right-hand woman. And let's see what she has to say. It's very important. I want you to listen to this.
We did some soul searching. We did some honest reflection about what went wrong in the primary. And we made some real changes. We looked at some math and we decided that it was worth getting in. Not because we believed that we could prevail necessarily, but we believed that if we didn't get back in, you would end up with Zoran Mamdani having a landslide victory. We did some.
They did some soul searching. They got back in because if they didn't get back in, Zoran Mamdani was going to win. That's what they believe. They didn't believe they can win because they lost the primary. Clearly right there, Melissa DeRosa is telling you what we've been telling you from the very beginning. Andrew Cuomo was the spoiler. Not only is he the spoiler, this is the World Wrestling Entertainment, where everybody is friends in the back. They go to the front where they're in the ring and they wrestle each other. And the rest of you are all spectators clapping and you like whatever wrestler. But then they go to the back and they all, have a drink, go out, and it's on you. You know you're being entertained. In this instance, you voted away everything for the next 4 years. You voted away status quo because you were fear-mongered and gaslit into believing things like Curtis Lewa had no chance and he's the spoiler, when it was always a 3-card Mamdani. And by the way, I saw John Catsimatidis this weekend with David Patterson. You guys are a disgrace. First of all, David Patterson, You signed the bill for tier 3. I'm sorry you might have been like this, apparently, but you did sign that bill. You ruined a lot of cops and firefighters' lives by doing the tier 3 thing. And then John Catsimatidis, you are the problem. Your radio station, the stuff you spew out of your mouth, you are one of the main people gaslighting people. And if Curtis Lewa, something happens to him walking down the street, a lot of you and your radio station would have a lot to bear for that, because the stuff you're saying is asinine when you control the strings when it comes to who's donating who to what, what candidate. So this shows you Andrew Cuomo was always, I think, either card 1 or 2 out of the 3 card Mamdani. Sorry, it's right in the open, and people should just open their eyes already and realize you got scammed. But hey, you live and you learn, right? You got another 4 years. In another 4 years, you'll be gaslit and all that, and it'll just repeat the same mistakes. This is what I'm talking about right here. Catsimatidis and Patterson continue to rip Sliwa over New York City's mayor's race, just shooting off his mouth. John Catsimatidis is the cause of what happened. He went with Bill Ackman, by the way, who's not even 24 hours, just buddying up to Zoran Mamdani, who, by the way, went to Somos. And for someone who wants to allegedly bring Sharia law, is partying with Jimmy Rodriguez, the self-admitted criminal mob associate, who's in Puerto Rico with everybody at Somos, with Miranda, with Eric Gonzalez, with the New York State Lieutenant Governor. Then Kathy Hochul shows up. Then Tish James is there. So much for all of that. You voted for an establishment Democrat. Look, there they are. There's Zoran and Kathy Hochul. You voted for an establishment Democrat. His hirees right now that he put in were all Bill de Blasio lackeys and Eric Adams lackeys. Just like I told you, you're getting Bill de Blasio 2.0 with a sprinkle of Eric Adams people and a lot of Bill de Blasio's people. There you go. There is Tish James. Jimmy might be, is that too far behind? You're going to live and you learn in New York City. But you could thank John Katz and Bill Ackman, who now have disappeared. It's all Curtis Lewa's fault. Not that they didn't donate. They didn't help Curtis. They weren't saying anything about Republicans. By the way, you got Alvin Bragg as your Manhattan District Attorney again, so don't complain. New York City, you voted. He won overwhelmingly. I mean, Athena Clark got demolished. You wanted Athena Clark to run, but then nobody in the party supports her. It is what it is. You get what you asked for in New York City. So I don't want to hear the Curtis Lewa talk. Andrew Cuomo was your spoiler. You were all duped into a 3-card Mamdani. And now you got an establishment Democrat who smiles nice. He's going to get 1 out of the 500 things he told you he wants to implement. Everything else won't happen. And you got to live. You got to live with your own decisions. These are all the pictures there from Somos. But I guess he's going to bring Sharia law. Yeah, that's great fear-mongering, John Katz. Congratulations. So if you didn't know, the only way I would know what was going on at Somos was Free Spoke. Free Spoke, it keeps giving me updates of things. I don't even see this stuff on the mainstream media. So let's go to the videotape. I know you surf the internet and you search for things on a search engine and you don't get what you're looking for. Well, I have a solution for you, and that's Free Spoke. Free Spoke is a search engine that does everything without all the restrictions and all the censorship, and there's no porn ads. Free Spoke is about authenticity rather than agendas. Labels media bias, no intrusions or data leaks. No porn ads, like I said, unlimited, unbiased AI. Also, deep dive podcasting. You can look it up. Go to freespoke.app.link/Greco. Download the app. You could also use the same link to get 35% off the premium subscription, which would be well worth it. Try it out. freespoke.app.link/Greco. Yeah, and if you do type in Greco 35 for the subscription, you'll get 35% off. And like I said, you can use it for anything. There's AI. you need it like they have their version of like a chat GPT. And like I said, I get all my updates. They just pop up on Facebook. I don't even know what's going on. And like, how do they get it first? But they get all this stuff first. And you could also click if you want things unbiased or Democrat or Republican. There's actually a feature on there if you want that. If you're a liberal, if you're a conservative, you could, lean one way or the other with your news or, whatever updates you want. But it's actually a good app. I'm not going to lie to you. Like I said, I keep getting updates on it. So check them out. But without any further ado, I think I'm going to bring up a guest. There's a lot to talk about, especially the New York City Police Department. So I'm going to bring on retired Deputy Chief of the NYPD, Winston Faison. And I don't know if Eric Sanders is with us, but Eric Sanders is also with us, who's not only his attorney, but mine as well. So welcome, gentlemen, to the Sal Greco Show.
What's up, Sal?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So full disclosure, Winston was once my commanding officer in the 60th Precinct. So I was his DWI guy. So for all you people in the chats that say you and your certificates and all of that, Winston actually was around when they handed it to me at his ceremony. So I just want that out in the open so people understand. So Winston.
Wait. Just let me say one thing before I start. Okay, so this is for all the monitors that are out there.
Oh, yes.
Okay, Deputy Chief Faison is here of his own free will and consistent with his First Amendment rights to talk about his experiences at the New York City Police Department. Not necessarily about the pending litigation because the corporation counsel will handle that part, but he will probably offer you an opinion overall what he thinks about what's being done to him. So that's it.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. So Winston, I guess we could start off. I mean, you did well over 20 years in the police department. Obviously, I think people know the end part of it. So I don't know how far back you want to go. Like, I don't know if you want to mention when you started, where you were at, where you were commanding officers at. Obviously, I mentioned the 60th Precinct. So tell us a little bit about that before we get into the crux of this.
Well, thanks for having me.
Of course.
Listen, I waited. It's really difficult to wait so long to speak your truth. So really quickly about myself, I came on in 2000. I worked in PSA 3 for 5 years, got promoted, went to the 7-2, did 4 years there, got promoted, went to PSA 7, did a year and a half there, transferred to the 8-8. I was a lieutenant at 8-8, and then I got promoted to captain, went to the 6-1 as the XO, then I went to the 6-0 as the XO, then I became the CO of the 6-1 precinct, and then I became the CO of the 8-1 precinct, and then I was the CO of the Youth Strategies Division of Community Affairs before I landed at the Aviation Unit.
That's quite a resume, and I do remember your time in the 6-0 and the 6-1. So I guess the time is when you went from the 8-8 or the 8-1 to the community affairs. I guess if you want to start there, because I guess that point you were probably either a deputy inspector or inspector, right?
Yeah. So even before we get started, there's a lot of things. I'm hearing a lot of things. Who I'm associated with, the people I'm around. Let me just clear some things up. All right. So, of course, Marjorie, Eric Adams, those are my guys. And let me just clear something else. Eric Adams, he was the mayor for 4 years. I probably spoke to him once, maybe twice in passing. That's it. Less than 30 seconds. That's number one. I got promoted to inspector November of 2019. I didn't get promoted to chief till 5 years later. I give you a little perspective. Richie Taylor was my lieutenant when I was a deputy inspector in the 6-1 precinct, and he was a chief 8 months before I became chief. Another perspective. When I left the 8-1 as an inspector, I passed my pen over to the person who took over for me, and he was a chief a year before I became chief. So if I'm a part of Marjorie's crew, it didn't help me. Everything I got, I earned. Okay? I see Rob Lukash is on. I know in his podcast, he mentioned, he interviewed me in 2019. He said, you know, we did the interview. I wasn't too impressed. I was a deputy inspector, commanding officer of 2 commands, and a licensed pilot, right? They gave it to a captain, never was a CO of a command, and no aviation experience. Now imagine if the tables was turned. Imagine if someone who don't look like me with that experience put in for that unit and they gave it to someone that looked like me with no experience. Right? Next.
So I guess the misnomer is like that was one of the rumors. Everybody always associates you with Madry, but there's nothing there because obviously that didn't help you for the last 6 years now.
Exactly.
So
and I'll give you some more perspective. In 2019, I got assigned to the aviation unit, and this is a big part of some of these allegations. When I got into the before I even got into community affairs community affairs unit, I opened up an Aviation for Us program at the Community Affairs Bureau, right? And we was doing a free program for underserved kids in East New York, in the neighborhood I was born and raised and still reside in. When I found out this new NYPD Community Center building was opening up, I went to Chief Hoffman, who was the Chief of Community Affairs at the time, and I asked her, how can I be a part of that? And I could do my program at the building because I'm a licensed pilot and I want to do a program there. I started that program on my own time when I was still the CO of the 8-1. I clocked out of the 8-1 precinct, went to the Community Affairs Bureau, NYPD Community Center, did my program for an hour and a half, twice a week, and it was free for all the kids in the program. No one ever got paid. It wasn't part of my business, and that's one of the reasons why they didn't charge me with that. There were 2 Black pilots that helped me and volunteered their time, and I spoke to them already. And Detective Roy Charles and Detective Brian Worthington. These guys, they're also pilots. They heard about the program and they volunteered their time to help me instruct that program. Not all the time. Once in a blue, they used to come in to help out. Very important. This program lasted from 2019 to around 2022 when I stopped running that program. All right, so that's the Aviation for Us program. All right. I also had a nonprofit organization, and that was utilized to fund the flights we was giving to the young kids in that program. It was from 14 to 19 years old, okay? It was a 10-week program. It was ground school, and the last week, one Saturday, we all went out to the airport. I partnered up with Black Pilots of America, a lot of guys who own their own planes, and we took those kids on a flight. They actually got an opportunity to actually fly the plane from one airport to another airport. A great program, greatly successful, and the NYPD benefited from this program because the community center, if you don't know about the NYPD Community Center, it was designed for community-based organizations to come into that facility to run programs along with the cops to build a relationship between the cops and the community. That was the whole basis. My program was one of the most popular programs in that building, and news press came many times to interview me about the program and everything in that building. All right. So that's the Aviation for Us program. Fast forward to 2023. And something interesting happened to me in 2022. I got a phone call from a high-level executive, and I'm not going to say names.
Higher than you?
Way higher.
Okay.
And they asked me, let me ask you a question. I said, what's going on? Is it true that they offered you the aviation position and you turned it down? I said, absolutely not. So apparently that person inquired, why didn't Faison get that position? He's really qualified. And their answer was, we offered it to him and he turned it down. Now, I don't know who they spoke to, but I'm telling you, they had no answer to why I didn't get that position. Rob Lucas said something like, you know what, we interviewed a lot of people. We, you know, it was military guys that was qualified. Why didn't you hire them? If you had a bunch of qualified people, why wasn't any of those people put in my position? And we'll talk about the person who took over for me later on. So I think maybe it's because of my color. When I first got the aviation position, you won't believe on social media how many people was like, what's his qualifications? How did he get that position? Is it a DEI hire? How did he get this position? Did anybody even ask the person before me or the person after me? Why not? It's funny, right? So now, 2023, I get assigned to the aviation unit. Now,
wait. I don't want to interrupt you, Chief Faison, but I want you to talk about something. Because I see the comments about this program.
Yeah,
talk about the conflict of interest that you went through in order for that to be validated. Yeah. Because it kind of quashes all the nonsense that people talk. So deal with that real quick.
Yeah, hold on a second. What's up, Jordan?
Yeah, I know. I see the. I guess the nonprofit question keeps coming up.
Oh yeah, so he's going to explain it. But
yeah.
He's going to come on and talk about how it went through a conflict of board screening, so there was no conflict. So for all the naysayers, and no.
That was one of the. Yeah, that's definitely something, because it was one of the. I believe it's one of the charges on that ridiculous. For people, we're going to show this in a little bit. There's this ridiculous page of 18 different charges from the police department. It's ridiculous. One charge in particular I want to highlight because it's the same charge we had for a couple of now former executives in the NYPD that were well known to have abused this one thing. So just so people know, I mean, this goes so high up that they selectively, try to tack these things on to certain people depending on who they are.
And I just want to say one thing. I'm going to address some podcasters saying that I'm being promoted hit points by the attorney. If you notice, I didn't say one thing this whole entire time, right? The only thing I wanted him to get is that there was a conflict of interest, because I see all these little comments, because this is Joe Cop stuff. This is why I address it. Because, he did this, he did that. No, it went through screening, went through conflict of interest board and everything else. So everything was on a level, despite the naysayers. So I just wanted him to clarify. Other than that, I haven't said anything. Go ahead.
I had to open the door for my son. He got locked outside. Conflict. Okay, so this is how the conflict of interest thing came about. So when I got into the aviation unit, what do cops do? They started looking at what you do, where you've been at, who you worked with, things of that nature. They went on my aviation page. They saw that these two detectives were basically working with me, right, in that aviation force program. So the allegations to the conflict of interest board was I was doing business with these two subordinates, right? And that's a conflict of interest. They also looked at my social media page and they saw pictures of myself in uniform. There's one picture when I'm sitting at my desk in uniform. There's other pictures of my promotion, things of that nature on social media, and they reported that also, right? So that was the conflict of interest board opened up an investigation in regards to that. They also called IID. Of course, they made EOs and other things of that nature. However, even before that, when I was doing that program at the aviation program, conflict of interest, NYPD conflict of interest board approved that program. It was signed off by the PC. They gave me a bunch of stipulations what I can and cannot do. So this wasn't under the table or I was hiding it. And trust me, when I talk about the investigation, IB went over all of my statements with a fine-tooth comb, They looked at my bank statements and everything. And we'll get into when we get into those 17 allegations, we'll talk about each one of them. And we'll talk about what they charged me with afterwards. Okay? And we'll talk about both the posts with the feds, and we'll go through each one of them. Even before we get to the 17 allegations, let's talk about the post. The post, let me give you a timeline, because we're talking 3 weeks all of this happened.
Yeah.
And this is how it worked. Around July 15th, I find out that I'm being investigated, and I got a GO15 scheduled for July 29th. About 2 weeks. And I hear the allegations going on, but it's so ridiculous. I mean, I heard the allegations. I crashed a helicopter and I refused to call the FAA or the NTSB. It's so stupid. First of all, if you crash a helicopter, the NTSB is going to do an investigation, and the first person they're going to speak to is me. Now, even if I tried to hide it, it was all over the papers. The NYPD knew about it. I'm pretty sure they already called the NTSB and asked, was this guy required to call you? So the feds, the National Transportation Bureau say, you know what? We don't even want to talk to the pilot. Makes no sense. But anyway, July 15th, on the 29th, you're going to get jailed. I'm not even worried about it. Following week come, the 24th, I get a phone call around 10 p.m. from the Chief of Transportation Bureau telling me, I don't know if you're aware, but as of Monday, the 28th, you're being transferred to the Transportation Bureau. Mind you, nobody spoke to me yet. So I got 25 years on. I had a great career. The 25th, the day after, I was at the pension section. I put my papers in because I'm not going to work at the Transportation Bureau. I'm not driving a 1PP. I was in a position I loved and what I love to do. My career, I'm not going to do that. So nobody forced me. I had to retire. I just refused to work anyplace else. The 29th come. No, the 26th come. The paper drop. The first post article.
Yeah.
Now, this article, if you have that up on a screen, this article made a lot of allegations. And this is not even a part of, a lot of these they didn't charge, but which is allegations. But we should go through those if you have that.
Yeah, I'm sure we could pull up the articles. I remember seeing this.
Yeah, so let's go through it. Nearly crashed at a Brooklyn home base, flying a pricey 407 helicopter with a student next to him during a landing. And the last week in June, he and the student hit the ground hard, the first source said. Okay, a hard landing is what they said. Now, first of all, what's the definition of a hard landing? Because it's just ridiculous. A hard landing, no damage to the helicopter, nobody got injured. The helicopter was checked up and down, no issues. I don't even know why that's on there. A hard landing. And the person I was flying with at the time even disagreed and said it was not a hard landing. I don't even know where that come from.
So it's unknown if it was an allegation from the person that was in the helicopter with you.
People talk. So what we was doing is, I'm a flight instructor. I was taking individual up on a flight. We was over by where we, practice at, and we was doing landings and taking off, but not, little hovering and then landing and taking off. At one point, the helicopter came down and it was a little off balance. I picked the helicopter back up, put it back down. And out of extreme, I say, you know what? Let me get the maintenance guys to come just to look at it, just to make sure there's no damage. Maintenance guys came, they looked at it. Nobody's hiding this. The maintenance guys came, they looked at it. I flew the helicopter back to on the other side of the base. Told the maintenance guys, recheck the helicopter. They rechecked it again. Nothing wrong with the helicopter. Back in service. So I don't know what's that. What's the next one? Hard landing. What was the next one? Keep it up. Took that same helicopter on a solo joint up to the Hudson River on April 25th, flying on the wrong seat of manufacturing rules. The emergency procedures. All right, let me explain that. Let me explain that little caveat. And you know what? There's one person in the aviation unit who's sending all this information to IAB because IAB don't know anything about aviation. However, the person that's sending that information don't know a lot about aviation also. So they send IAB the manual, the flight manual, and it says, if you're flying solo, you should be on the right side of the seat, not the left. I was flying on the left seat. And that's what it says in normal procedures. So I told them, and this is during the GO15, I'm pretty sure everybody read it. I said, I'm not flying under normal operations because I'm a flight instructor. And I am certified, and I took a written, a practical, and an oral exam, and I teach on the left side. You know what? People shouldn't drive cars on the right side. But if you want to fly, if you teaching somebody how to drive and you got two steering wheels, that person's going to be on the right side. Don't mean he's doing something wrong. He's training. I train on the opposite side. Actually, I feel more comfortable flying on the opposite side because I do all my flying on the opposite side because I do training for people who don't know how to fly on the right side. So it was stupid. Next.
I see.
What's the next one?
The helicopter's tail rotor.
Leaked. Okay, let's talk about this. Now we have several helicopters. Things happen all the time. You get leaks, oil leaks, things of that nature. The tail rotor gearbox was leaking. The gearbox is covered, right? There's a cover over the gearbox. The maintenance guys periodically check the tail rotor, check everything. Every night they do an inspection. They saw a little bit of oil on the outer box. They opened it up. They said, oh, stop. The seal in the gearbox was leaking. No biggie. It happens all the time. And that made the paper. So, what's next?
Hire new employees without the oversight of the NYPD. The sources said he's working around department rules to get his people in. A third source said.
All right, let's talk about that. Name one CO that moved from one location to another location and then take a drive or somebody else. Now, I'll tell you some things. When I got to the NYPD Aviation Unit, I never moved anybody out for my people, unlike what they're doing now. That's number one. Number two, I brought in my driver and my admin person. I brought in a lieutenant, an ICO lieutenant, and I brought in not a lieutenant, an admin lieutenant. No, ICO lieutenant and the admin lieutenant came in a little later. They talked about my XO too, and I feel bad for him because he actually put in the post. He actually got interviewed by Chief of Ramblers, and he got the position. So he wasn't put in. The other three guys, first of all, I can't transfer anybody. I don't have the power to put a finance message for somebody to be transferred. So if you say I'm working outside the NYPD guidelines, I didn't put that transfer in. They got transferred. So don't say I'm working around NYPD guidelines. What else they got?
Oversped his rotor and could have torched the 500,000 engine we just got, the first source said. Dropped CQ, the rotor system down to dangerously low speeds, nearly crashing, the sources said.
Was it oversped? Did I cause damage? Nearly? I don't even know what that means. So let me tell you what we do as CFIs. We do auto rotations. I take the helicopter up to about 1,000 feet over the ground. We turn the power off, have the helicopter drop probably about 1,000 feet a minute towards the ground, and utilizing the air from the bottom to keep the rotor spinning. And while we're doing that, we're trying to keep the rotor within a certain parameters. If you pass that parameter, you can damage the rotor, causing millions of dollars of damage. There was no damage to the helicopter. Oh, and Rob Lucas just answered, where the people you brought there have aviation experience? Well, let me tell you something. Right now, there's 2 people who was brought there after I left with no aviation experience. And do you need aviation experience to be an ICO or admin lieutenant? They're not flying. And there are other people in that unit who are not pilots that's in the admin's position. But anyway, next one. Thanks, Rob.
I see that. I get, before you answer, I see one more. I have one other question. I saw a mention here. When you transfer the personnel in there, right? Like you brought your driver and your ICO. Now, when they came in to do the same positions, or was the person that was doing that position, did they stay? Did they get transferred out? I think these people are
exactly. So when I brought my driver, there was nobody there. She just came with me. She was my admin person. Right?
Okay.
I had no ICO. There was no ICO in that position when I got there. The ICO transferred. The admin lieutenant came about a year later when my admin sergeant got promoted and I needed an admin lieutenant. So nobody got misplaced or bounced out to put my guys in.
Okay. I don't want that to be another misnomer. I think people are trying to say, did you bring people in? Did you then make, so nobody even got transferred out of there? It's just you brought in a few extra people.
Yeah, nobody got transferred out.
That's allowed. I mean, I think every CO does that. So that sounds reasonable. So all right, let's look at the next question, or the next allegation here. Caused structural damage to $40,000 tail rotor while practicing a quick stop maneuver over rocks on July 4th. If that goes, you're going to spin around like a top, the first source said.
That damage didn't occur when I was flying. It's funny. I'm doing a GO-15, and somebody make this up saying I was doing quick stops and the course damage. First of all, I'm not even going to give you a real defense of it, because if it do come up, I have a defense for it. But it's a reason why IAB didn't charge it. Because I'll tell you one thing. I landed that airplane at a spot. And that airplane stood out there for 9 hours, and it was moved at that time. IAB didn't know this. They didn't believe me. I told them, you know what? Then go re-interview the person I flew with, re-interview the person who fueled up the helicopter, re-interview the person who brought the helicopter into the hangar. And they did. Garbage. Now, there was damage to the helicopter. At 9 p.m., one of the maintenance guys came to me and said, hey, Chief, there's damage to this helicopter. I looked at it. No problem. We have damage all the time. All the time. I said, no problem. It's not hiding it. All right, we get it fixed. Call, how much it costs? $40,000. And I'm telling you, $40,000 in the aviation field is like $20, right? I think we spent like $60,000 on flight suits for like 20, 30 people not too long ago. As a matter of fact, I said, not only order one, order two, just in case something like this happened again. And we ordered two. So I'm not worried about that.
I see. Before I say, Ron Layson says, I have to comment because it sounded like Chief Faison was implying Rob Lukash inferred that he was a DI hire, and that is absolutely not the case. Chief Lukash never made that statement on or off air.
Well, he didn't make the statement, but it was implied. And I saw the episode, and somebody said it sounded like a DEI, and well, I don't know. And somebody was like, I don't know. But let's clear the air. It was not a DEI. Find someone that has my patrol experience and my aviation experience, and everybody is on this live. Put them in the chat. One person that you know in this department that has both my, forget the patrol experience, just my aviation experience as an executive that can sit in my spot. Put it up there.
I don't know if anyone in the chat has both. I know I see different questions. I see William Rogers said, didn't you tell them to bring the damaged rotor in to keep as a memento on display in your office?
Yes, because it was so crazy. I said, I would love to keep this just to tell people how stupid it is. First of all, it's garbage. They're just going to throw it away. And I did say, a tail rotor, I would like to keep that as a momentum because of the stupid allegations. It was funny to me until I got transferred.
Yeah.
First of all, let me tell you something about IAB. IAB job is to investigate allegations and find out what it is and what it's not. That's their job is not to listen. I got GO15 with IAB and the Department Advocate's Office at the same time. IAB should do the investigation, present what they got to the Department Advocate's Office. It wasn't that they was trying to figure out what really happened. They made a move that transferred me out. It was in the papers, and now they got to cover that. So they're trying to put a square into a circle. What can we get this guy on? And I believe that wholeheartedly.
No, there's a lot of that. I mean, they're still doing that to this day. They're still doing that to people.
And listen, this was all blew up. This started because I was mentioned, and somebody came up to me and said, listen, Chief Henderson is leaving Patrol Borough Brooklyn North. Are you interested in taking the Patrol Borough Brooklyn North? I said, I wasn't thinking about it because I'm in a great place, but I grew up in Brooklyn. I would love to take it. I'll take it. Somebody did not want me to get to Patrol Borough Brooklyn North because they wanted to listen, Vasquez is a cool guy. He was an inspector. They wanted Vasquez to get the position. He was an inspector. They wanted to double bump him. So this is their way of saying, we don't want him to get to Brooklyn North, and let's throw all of this out there. It was just perfect timing. I went from July 14th thinking I'm getting promoted next week to 2-star to July 29th with charges and utilizing my time. That's what.
Yeah. There's a like they did like a whole about face because of that New York Post article was crazy. Is there anything else on that article? Is there any other allegations on there? Or is that the last one?
You got the other one with the feds? Because that was on 8/2. The feds investigating me for overtime.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah, because it was 2 Post articles, right? We'll get to that in a second. Let's get to this feds investigating me for this overtime. And let's explain this overtime. And people know about the overtime. I see some people chiming in. But we get federal grant overtime for training because, you know, we take the duties and responsibilities for the U.S. Coast Guards, right? So they give us money for training. We do training Tuesdays and Wednesdays. One day is for scuba. One day we do with ESU for rappels and things of that nature. The training consists of, it can be 8-9 people on this training roster. The training consists of pilots, 2 pilots that's flying the 412. You got 2 scuba guys in the back. They're going to be a part of it. You have a crew chief who's a maintenance guy. He's going to be a part of it. That's an aircraft. Harbor is going to be a part of it because you're dumping guys in the water. You're going to have 2 boats out there with personnel from Harbor. You're going to have a hospital car with 2 cops just in case something happened. You're going to have a supervisor who oversee it. You're going to have other people who's working in radios and things of that nature. So it could be 12 people a part of this overtime. It's not just for pilots because there are supervisors. So this is what's crazy. It was 3 people mentioned in that article, right? Detective Faison, and I spoke to them. Detective Faison, Lieutenant Smith, and Lieutenant Wright, the 3 people I brought in. However, there are other admin people, personnel people who also does that overtime. Why wasn't those people mentioned in the article? Why? Not only that, they still continue to do the overtime after I left, and that overtime was being done before I left. So you know what? The feds should be investigating anybody, but the feds is not investigating me for that because, listen, I've been a straight shooter my whole career. I'm not taking money. I'm not doing things under the book. And they looked at my bank account and said, damn, if you corrupt, you bad at it because I don't need to steal money or move money around or to give people money. My admin guys, the most overtime they can get is 20 hours a month, max. They get 5 hours a tour to do that pre-tour, post-tour to do that overtime. I only have 60 people working for me. There's times where we don't have enough people to do it because we have so much money in grant overtime. So no one did anything on the table or things of that nature. And then Detective Faison, who I brought with me, they didn't accuse of it, but they inferred during the investigation that what kind of relationship me and my assistant has. How often you see him? Do you see him after work? And I know where they're going. They're saying, you must be sleeping with this person. She's married. I know her kids. That's furthest from the truth. And the only time I see Faison is at work. Maybe I saw at a Christmas party once in a blue. We never hang outside of work. And that's disrespectful.
I hear you. Because I got this John McCarty's in the chat.
Yeah, please let me investigate that. So the day that the FAA came to the aviation base, there was plenty of allegations on that. I think I wrote it down someplace. I'm glad you brought it up, John. One said, I stopped the FAA from entering. No, that's number one. Number two, it says, I took all the maintenance logs and the record books and locked it in my office. And they also said, what else was it? I've written down, but let me just explain to people. First of all, I was off that day. I did not go to work that day. Was not there, number one. My XO was there, and he did call me about it. Now, in order to get into the aviation hangar, you have to go through a booth, right? Everybody who knows aviation knows when you go to Floyd Bennett Field, there's a booth there before you walk into the building. Nobody's just walking right into the aviation hangar. Everyone knows that. That booth is manned by who? And this is what I told you that. It's manned by a Special Operations Division, not me. They let them into the base. And they was in the aviation hangar when they called me. I said to them, only people who's allowed to touch that maintenance log and go back and forth with FAA, they got to be a boss. They got to be either the lieutenant or a sergeant. I don't want just cops talking to the FAA giving. No, they got to be a boss. And they came into the hangar. They did whatever investigation they have, and that was it. Nobody said. First of all, I never locked my door. And there's no logs in my office. And they didn't even charge that with the 17 counts because they know it's so ridiculous. But that's some of the allegations that was claimed. I think it was a couple of other things that was stupid, but I wasn't even working that day. But my XO was there. He spoke to them. First of all, they came because, let me tell you how it works in the aviation world. We work for two entities in a way. We got NYPD that oversees us. Mm-hmm. The FAA oversees a portion of what we do. We got to follow the rules when we fly and things of that nature. And also when we're doing flight training, it falls under the FAA because we're getting licenses outside of the NYPD. All right. So what happens is when individuals don't like you for any reason, they'll find any way to make allegations. So this is not the first time the FAA came to the hangar. The FAA came to the hangar a couple of times because you have people who call and go, FAA, he's doing this, and they come. We got letter writers. They call IAB. They call Conflict of Interest Board. They call all of these entities. The FAA didn't come and go, you know what? I'm just going to randomly check. No, it wasn't a random check. Somebody called and made an allegation, and the allegation was I was flying on the wrong side of the seat or something of that nature.
I see. I got other people and they said I guess Crazy 10-7 saying the FAA General Counsel filed a brief to investigate this guy for obstruction. Did that happen?
No one.
I'm assuming he meant counsel, like COU and SEL, counsel, as opposed to counsel.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay, I just want to understand. Okay.
Not the FAA never listen. The FAA can speak to me anytime. Anytime. If the feds was looking for me, they know where I'm at. I'm not hiding. Let's go.
I guess the other thing, there's other people asking, I guess William Rogers was asking about, did you tell any cops not to open the gate, or were you threatening people with CDs if they spoke to anyone? Because I guess there's a little misnomer with that, apparently.
You want to give booth cops CDs? First of all, the booth cops don't even work for me. I can't even see. I'm not giving Chief of Ramblers guys CDs, number one. I did tell my guys, if the FAA do come back, I want to be there, or a supervisor. Cops should not just be walking anybody into the hangar. First of all, let me explain something, and most people don't know this. You know, we are public use, right? We fall under public use, similar to the military, right? So the FAA oversees certain parts of what we do, not everything. The FAA can't go to an Army base and shut it down, just like the FAA can't come to an NYPD Aviation Unit and just shut it down. Technically, if you're flying for public use, we can make our own curriculum, and we don't even need a license to fly if we don't want to. But we do get a license. But if you fly for public use, the FAA don't oversee certain things. Like I said, they oversee certain portions of what we do. That means the flight training, since that's falling under the FAA to get certificates, they can oversee that, and they can oversee that 407. But when it comes to the 412 and the 429 with our mission, technically, they cannot come in there and ramp check. So this is what happened. They wanted to come one time prior and check guys' licenses as they landed to make sure their license is right. Technically, they can't do that. They can't do that. And the FAA is a big organization. It's not just, you know, there's different portions, just like the NYPD. But technically, they can't do that. So when they came the last time, they wanted to ramp check a few of my guys. You can't do it. And I told them, listen, if you want to ramp check somebody, if you want somebody's information, use me. Here's my information. But did I call the platoon commander instructing to give nothing to the FAA? No, cops can't give any. Oh, Joey Knight, he worked for me. He's a member of the NYPD Aviation Unit. No, I told the platoon commander the only person that gives documents is, and I called the maintenance lieutenant. The maintenance lieutenant or boss is the only one that should be given any documents. Period. And I stand on it.
Yeah, it's you got a lot of questions coming at me.
Please, give it to me. And listen. You know, I feel bad for some of my guys too, because, you know, first of all, this is not a game. You're talking about somebody's life, and this is the problem I have. You know, I did 25 years in good standing. I'm certified, and I'm supposed to be where I'm at. I'm in the paper for these allegations, and you know, these cops think it's just a game. You know, I got kids. I got an 18-year-old son who's asking me questions about, Dad, what's going on? I'm reading all this stuff in the paper. You know, it goes beyond just me. You know what I'm saying? Because I put a lot of hard work to be where I'm at. So, and then other cops should think about this. If somebody can do that to me, they can do it to anybody. Listen, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And that's what's happening. So I can answer all the questions you want. Some people are going to believe and some people are not going to believe. But I have the truth on my side, and I can stand on that firmly.
I listen. That's why I wanted you to come on, because it's been a lot of things said, and we never. Yeah, you only hear one side, which is you know, New York Post, and you know, they've written a couple of beauties lately. They wrote something about another client of Eric's. They wrote some things about Lieutenant Epps at the time, and already a lot of that stuff has been disproven. So, you know, it's because when they write something, they don't get both sides of the story. They just write whoever is the one or whatever source is saying one side. You got to confirm certain things, even if you write, okay, this is an investigation and this and this and this is being reported, and we'll wait to see what the result is. They just kind of paint the picture. And then before you know it, you have a tsunami on you. Because Winston, that's what happened to me. They had people, they actually had people believing I went inside the Capitol, and I've never been to this building to this day. I've never been to D.C. Capitol. I was in Washington, D.C. at a hotel. Never been to this building. But the way things were written from whoever was the one going back to the Daily News saying that's how it was written. And eventually they actually told me, I'm sorry. We didn't get the facts straight, but it was too late by then. I was already under their thumb, and the rest, everybody knows what happened after that. But so I know the feeling. That's why I like to have people on like you, because when you're an avalanche of all this stuff, and trust me, not everything you're going to read is true when you're getting all these allegations, but people, then they get this, a feel for, I think it's this way, and they paint you in a picture, and it's it. You're in a box, and it's over. That's how career is over.
Let's go to the 17 allegations, and now we can go to the GO15.
Yeah.
And let me tell you a little bit about this GO15. You know what? If you ever this is my first time getting GO15 in something this big, right? And if you don't know the procedures, trust me, get outside, get an outside attorney, have people look over what you're doing, what you're saying. So basically, they don't tell you anything until you sit down and give you all these allegations. You're like, oh, sure. And you don't know where it's coming. They don't go through bullet by bullet explaining this is the charge and this is why. They just start talking about stories and putting everything down, and you figure it out afterwards. So let's go through it. The first one, penal law, falsifying business records. Now, I'll give you another one too that kind of explains what they was talking about. But let me see, falsifying business record, pension fund submissions. Let me take a second to explain this. So, this is crazy. When I was in the Community Affairs Bureau, so what happened was, when I was in Community Affairs Bureau, the pension fund was giving away $20,000 to 20 programs. It was a 2020 thing. And then they gave away like $20,000 to like 70 different programs throughout the city for cops. So cops said, you know what? I teach basketball. You write down a proposal, they give you $20,000. This, things of that nature. It was guys who wasn't even doing the program that was getting $20,000. It just got to be used towards that program. I was actively doing my Aviation for Us program. I put in for the submission and never got any money. Let that be known. Never got any money. I put in submission for it, and they said, what is it being used for? I put Aviation for Us. However, they said, you got a company named Aviation for Us. You was trying to get that money for your company. It wasn't true. It was for the aviation program that was actively running at that time. And they got that submission because they went into my hard drive in the computer. They saw a submission there, and they took that for what they saw and said that was it. All right?
Now, wait, they went into your hard drives. Did they have a subpoena for that? Or did they do administrative, nonsense?
I don't know.
That could be a problem. I'm just saying that could be a problem, because if they're accusing you of a crime, but that little letter on top is not C, then everything they did to you falls under the same circumstances as mine. Just so you know, I think you should look at that.
Well, we all know it's like I'm being quiet sitting here, but we know what the theories are. I can tell you, if they don't have a subpoena from a court, meaning a criminal court or a Supreme Court, it's by definition illegal. So that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah. I just wanted that clarified. You said they went to your hard drive. You can't do that unless you think there's a crime being committed, and that changes the whole landscape of this thing. Notice how everybody's quiet now when I said that, huh? Yeah.
What's the next one?
Yeah. What's the next charge?
Scheme to defraud in the first degree. So let me look, because I got it. What they was talking about.
It says scheme to defraud in the first degree. Penal law 190-65.
Let me see. I don't even know what they was talking about. Oh, let me tell you what this is. This is crazy. This is crazy. So they looked at my hard drive, right? And all right, so I was doing my program.
Hold on. Is a hard drive NYPD computer or your personal computer?
No, it's NYPD computer.
Oh, and by the way, so I'm going to address that point. You don't have an expectation of privacy, but if there's a criminal investigation, the same standards apply. So they would need a court order or subpoena, or they have to open up a grand jury in a criminal case in order to do that. So So who think they could just do this? You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I know they can't. I know from my own experience. So go ahead, Winston. Tell it. Continue.
So of course they went in my hard drive. So when I was in community affairs and Commissioner Mark Stewart, good friend of mine, took over community affairs. He saw the program I was doing. He was like, "Yo, Winston, this is a great program. How can we expand this program citywide?" I said, "Well, first of all, I can't do it, but." He said, "Can you write down what we will need to do the same thing you're doing?" Because he was doing his own NYPD program. What do you need? What would it take for me to do it citywide? I wrote down a proposal of how many simulators you need at the same location, things of that nature, how much everything will cost, all the material. I gave that to Commissioner Stewart. I typed it up and I just sent him the 49. It wasn't the 49. I typed up on the letterhead saying, in order to do this program in these different locations, he wanted to do 5 borough, it would cost this amount, and I broke everything down. They assumed I was asking for money. Not only that, the 5 simulators that the NYPD brought for my program, they didn't give it to me. It was utilized just for the program, and it's still at the Community Affairs Center. So it wasn't, and we did this for all the programs. So whatever programs anybody had, the NYPD had a budget of $500,000 a year that went to help facilitate the programs at that center. So if somebody had, say, baseball program, you need gloves, NYPD will buy the gloves and we'll store it in the basement. And when they need to utilize it, they give it. When it came to the simulators, they bought 6 simulators for the aviation program. It was like $5,000 a piece. And those simulators are still there. So they didn't give me anything.
Interesting. Let's see. I got a friend of the show is here, Lieutenant Douchebag. Oh, Sal, why don't we just ask NYPD? That's the DEA, wonderful union there. Why they decided to reach out to another law firm for help. I mean, it's not like they have a bunch of overwhelmed detectives facing indictments or any potential conflict of interest. What's a little extra confusion in the middle of all that chaos where revelations are set to emerge in the coming weeks? Yeah, Winston, I don't know if you know that there's some actions going on behind the scenes that might reach as high as a certain disgraced chief of department. I think there's 2 of them actually, but one of the latest one, the one that keeps going on the news. There's a lot, going on behind the scenes. But I'm going to get to that because one of your charges is relevant to exactly one of those individuals. So let's get that back up on the screen. I guess. Yeah. So this third one here, violation of Penal Law 12020, reckless endangerment by failing to notify National Transportation Safety Board.
So this is what I mean by people who don't know a lot. They know a little bit of something, but not a lot of something. And listen, they gave the IAB a document that stated if damage to a tail wheel would have happened, you're supposed to notify NTSB. And this is at the GO15 too. And in the document they didn't give the whole document. They gave that little piece, and it said even if it's on the ground, if it's an accident or incident, right? So they asked me, why didn't I notify IAB? I said, I didn't have to notify it because it wasn't an accident or an incident. So he's like, no, it was an incident. No, it wasn't. What's the definition of an incident? Not according to what you know. What's the definition of an incident? If you went a couple of chapters back, the FAA describes what the definition of an incident is. It's like the patrol guard procedure. So, the lawyer there, David Green, he was there. He went on his phone. He said, you know what? I have it right here. So he read it. And as he read it, so NTSB is notified when you have an accident incident. And it's really like you're flying the aircraft or you're operating the aircraft and something happened or could have happened that would have caused like somebody to crash, right? It's almost like a crash. But that wasn't the case. So I didn't have to notify the NTSB. And you know what? If I did, then you notify them because now you know. And if you notify the NTSB, tell them to come speak to me. That's it. And listen, I'm not hiding anything. That damage, everybody in the hangar knew. Listen, when I first got to aviation, I knew all eyes was on me. Listen, I'm the first Black aviation CEO. And I know that comes with a lot of responsibilities. Every time I walked out into that hangar, people looked out to see what I was doing. Everywhere you go, they track you on Flight Aware to see where you went, how long you was with. That's just my life as an aviation CEO. Things I say, sometimes even people higher than me don't take it or don't believe it unless I had to bring detectives and sergeants into the office to speak to Chief of Ramblers just so he believed what I say.
Chief Ramblers. His name is infamous later on for 2 incidents that recurred recently after you left, by the way. Even though I know some people try to throw you in there, but it's just a recent incident on the new CEO there. Here's a good one. Here you go. Now they're going with the admin guide here, right? 30406. This is the catch-all. Good order, efficiency, or discipline of the department. Fail to properly inspect department helicopter.
Listen, I inspect the helicopter when I get on and get off. Period. That's it.
I mean, yeah. What the hell is that? What kind of charge is that?
For me to even, misuse of department facility. Now, listen, so what happened was this charge was grouped up in that conflict of interest charge. So I took a picture in uniform in my office. Listen, but they never told me exactly what they mean by that, but it was looped up in that conflict of interest board. So, I took a picture in that uniform in the office. Maybe I misused but they never explained it. What's next?
That's, if I'm not mistaken, misuse of time. But so they're saying a misuse of department facility, misuse of department personnel, misuse of time. This is all related to that one picture.
I don't know. So they had a picture, they had video. I don't know where they get the misuse of time. Now, the misuse of time, I have a problem with that one. And that's something I'm going to discuss with my lawyer because I don't feel I misused time. I think that was part of the allegation of, I don't know. I'm not even going to think. I'm not going to speculate. I don't know where that came from. They didn't ask me questions in my GO15 regarding time. So
that's what I'm saying. You can't take overtime.
Yeah.
So how do you misuse time?
I don't know. So that was included in that misuse. I don't know. So I can't speak on that intelligently.
Misuse of time would be, I don't know.
I mean, it could have been with the feds. I don't know. Okay, good. Who's it? Joey Knight. Good. He got the inside scoop. Joey, you're the best. All right. And I think that's coming up about me flying the Farmdale. But go ahead. I'll address that. But I think that's coming up.
When Farmdale comes up, it's not quite what they think it is. So I can't wait till you get to that too.
What's
that? Post of internal document to the public.
So let me speak about that.
What the hell is that?
So of course they went through my whole social media account.
Oh.
At one time, I put a post up for cops for the aviation unit. It was a post that said, we're looking for cops for the aviation unit. I took a picture of that post. I put it on my social media just to inform people, because people come to me all the time. They hiring, they didn't post up. I put it up there and I said, listen, for all you guys that keep asking me, are there openings? There's an opening for the aviation unit. And that's what I put up on my social media. And that's what they mean posting internal documents.
So they're saying you posted internal documents. So that's what they're saying. You violated a social media policy. But Winston, we have 2 individuals, one being a former now disgraced chief of department, and another one who was the deputy commissioner of whatever nonsense. Then he's the deputy mayor, who literally were investigated from internal affairs, then the Department of Investigation for social media. They browbeated politicians. They sent a mob associate to go after the gentleman that started the Finance Unfiltered, John Macari and Eric Dim. They also were threatening other people online. And in fact, the investigation ended up that the DOI said that they virtually violated the Hatch Act. Nobody did anything there, though. I mean, what is up with that? How will you be in charge for social media nonsense when those two individuals, and there were more, but those two in particular that were as high as could be, rank-wise, nothing happened to them. Yet it's well documented.
And listen, I'm doing it just to bring awareness of that position. It wasn't for any other reason. And you know, you see it all the time on the social posts, like, you know, they have openings for this. Detective squad here is looking for this. So listen, if that's a violation, I can curse, right? I messed up on that, and I'll take a hit on that. And let me explain something. The Conflict of Interest Board did their investigation, right? They said, we did our investigation and we find probable cause that you violated the Conflict of Interest Board, and we proposed a penalty of $4,500. Now, it says if you accept it, you know, you pay it and that's it. Or if you don't accept it, technically it's supposed to go to an oath hearing where I can dispute it. But if you work for a bargaining agency like NYPD and y'all have your own, we'll send it to the NYPD and then they will adjudicate that. So when they sent me that agreement of $4,500, I didn't think it was worthy of $4,500 because I didn't get a chance to explain, listen, I didn't do this, I didn't do this, I didn't do this. But it went to the NYPD and they lumped that with all the allegations. I was so busy with the helicopter and all this, I didn't look at the details of those little conflict of interest for.
So I'm going to interject one thing. I see these comments. Oh, there's a lot of allegations. Just so everyone knows, because he's going to eventually get to it, there are a lot of allegations. And you know which one stuck? Maybe one or two. So for all the allegations, they meant nothing. And that's two different investigations, Internal Affairs and Conflict of Interest Board. So all the speculation sound like cop talk. So he's going to get through it, but most of them didn't stick because they're basically.
I see this too. I see William Rogers. I'm just going to address this one time. He says there's not one allegation, is like 1,000 from dozens and dozens. Sal laughing this off as losing his credibility. Who's laughing this off? You know, William, I'm going to explain this one thing to you because I'm a little bit probably worse than what Winston had. I've had the Congress, the FBI, and the NYPD all investigate me. So when they say social media, which was something they try to say, I was in a picture with a guy who tried to subvert the government, all that nonsense. You don't know what it's like to be chased. And then you know what they tell you at the end? Oh, sorry, you didn't do anything illegal. You didn't violate any laws, but you're friends with Roger Stone, so sorry. I'm going to destroy your life, and I don't care. Your father's dead. I don't care about any of that stuff. And by the way, your little awards or your DWIs mean nothing to us. So please, you're trying to compare an apple to an orange. I'm trying to compare two apples. Winston's being charged for social media stuff. You can say 1,000 times. All I'm saying is you had a former disgraced chief of department that literally a conflict of interest board, DOI, NYPD, nothing happened to him. He violated the Hatch Act. I don't know if you should look that up. That's a felony. I don't know why nobody, and he's on Newsmax right now telling everybody that Mamdani, we should, the NYPD needs a big, like a savior. But meanwhile, he's the reason 300 plus cops was retiring every single month. But you guys you want to compare an apple to an orange. You're not seeing it clear because your hatred is running rampant. You have to try to make sense. This is how law works. That's how things work. Otherwise, you end up with that decision of, Sal, you're an insurrectionist because I was told so. Winston Faison's a bad guy because I was told so. That's what I'm trying to do. We're trying to separate this. So I'm not laughing it off. I'm laughing at the fact that how do you treat Winston one way, but this former disgraced chief of department differently, and his minion, who certainly destroyed the police department. But I guess that's being ignored because you have an issue with Winston. I don't. And my issue is how the police department is run from the very, very top, which we'll get into in a little bit. So let's go back to the charges you had there. You know, they're just running the gambit here with anything they could find. Where have I seen that before? Let's see.
Recommending a private business.
Yeah. Steering a business, isn't that the same thing?
So what happened was, let's talk about this for a second. And and like I said, when they do the when IAB do the investigation, they don't tell you steering business. This is what we say. This is what we think you did in regards to the steering business. But they ask you questions, and then you kind of can figure out where it's going. So they asked me when I was in Community Affairs Bureau as a deputy, I was an inspector. I was running my program. My program is free for everybody. Once in a blue, some cops may come in and go, "Can I sit in the back of your classroom?" No problem. I'm teaching ground school. If a cop want to sit in the back of the classroom, I have no problem with that. There's cops that work for me who want to say, "Oh, I want to hear about airspace," and they sit in the back of the classroom. Now, cops do that. They don't get paid. I don't charge them for that. It's free. Before my XO at the time, Captain Manuel, who got really shitted on, before he was there, he worked in Queens as an XO. He heard about the program, and I didn't know him at the time. He came and sat in the back of my classroom maybe once, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, right? He was interested in learning how to fly a helicopter. They GO-15 to him, that's awesome. Later on, I do flight. I'm a flight instructor with the airplane. I'm a certified flight instructor airplane. I take people up on discovery flights. That's what I do. If Sal, if you go, you know what? Can I go up and fly with you? I'll take you up and I'll charge you for that flight. I took him up and I charged him for a discovery flight. So they saying you brought him into that unit and steered them to your private business. And they also said doing business with a subordinate. But I told him, listen, he didn't work for me. I was I was in community affairs at the time. He was in a patrol bureau of one, whatever command he was in Queens. I had no direct relationship with working with him. So that's not a problem. But I think that's where they was getting that steering business from there to there. And
they're trying to link 2 people together, and there's nothing there, just other than he was your XO at a certain point, which means absolutely nothing when you're in aviation.
And business with subordinates, the same thing with the 2 cops that were they GO-15 them too. Have he ever paid you? Have you ever did an off-duty employment with him? Did any money? Trust me, they went through them too. That's why I'm not charged with it. Trust me, they wasn't there to try to figure out what's right and wrong. They was there to figure out what can we do to get this person down. And that's the problem I have with IAB, and I said it during the GO-15. If this is an honest, true investigation, let's sit down and go through everything and see what's right and see what's wrong, and then come to a conclusion. Don't put everything together and figure out what can I get this guy on. Do an investigation. Don't punish a person before you even speak to him. You didn't even speak to me yet, and you transferred me out, and the article dropped that Saturday, and my interview was supposed to be that Tuesday. That's wrong.
Listen, and you know, I see William Rogers in here, and I hear what you're saying, William. I'm saying, like, see what Winston's saying about internal affairs. I've been through this gambit, and just like not to once again, they'll compare different investigations. Whether you're a cop or a supervisor, I know it's a little different. You know, I guess they try to say they treat supervisors different. In this instance, the entire unit is being flipped upside down, having to answer these questions to these people who the only thing they care about is how do I get whoever, whether it's Winston, whether it's the cop, whether it's the detective, they need to come back with a head. They want a head. They're going to decapitate someone. They're not there to find out the truth or the cover for the cops. Or that's been IAB's whole MO. And that's what I'm trying to point at. And also, the investigation they do or they conduct, they're completely biased. This one already, and I know some people are saying in the comments about you can't just pull department info off somebody. You can't do that. You have to then say this investigation is criminal. You can't just go into people's files. Otherwise, heck, we could do a lot of things about a lot of people that are currently executives, right? But you got to know what's the rules and the laws and procedures. You can't just go into someone's computer, whether they work for you or not. You have to have a subpoena. Eric's telling you a fact. I learned this from my own investigation because remember, they used a fake one, some administrative nonsense, and got past all these. You're not supposed to do it because these companies then give your info, believing you're some kind of, I guess they call me a drug dealer. I'm on drugs. And then say, oh, he was never on drugs. So you don't want to be the guy put in that situation.
Well, since you mentioned that, Sal, that's the very problem that's going on with the federal government, with the FISA subpoenas. They're giving them out like water. And what they find out now is they investigate all these members of Congress. And why they investigate them? Because they don't like them. And that's what everyone should be concerned about. I see all these little comments. The bottom line is, you know why Chief Faison is still standing? Because essentially he did nothing wrong. And Layson has it right. This is White Sox nonsense. There's no serious allegation. It's bullshit. And it's sad that you can't even see it because there's some people have so much hatred, they can't even see it. They just can't. It's sad. But you know what? That's what keeps me in business. That's what keeps the podcast going. That's what keeps the interest going, because you have people like that in the world. You just can't see that shit is made up against people.
Yeah, I've seen it here because I'm literally trying to point to people. The social media thing is ridiculous when there was two guys that were running quite possibly the entire department and the city, because you had a mayor who's absent at times, you know, whether he's in Turkey, whether he's at Trump, whatever he's doing. You have two guys that were running, you know, rampant, and nobody did anything about it on social media, threatened people. But here we are. You're trying to use a deputy chief who's a lot lower than those two guys, and you're trying to crush him for things that it's laughable. He's posting something on his personal social media about trying to help out a business. What are those two guys doing? I think a vile threat to someone is far worse. Or having your stooge from a nightclub, this mob associate guy, do your dirty work for you. I think that's far worse, but we all know what they did with that. So let's get this. There's other ridiculous things, this and admin guide nonsense. Display of department logo for personal use. Winston, that's social media, right?
Yes.
What is that? The Ray Kelly rule?
If that's true, then I guess the department should be taking action against all these self-impressed police officers that are out there in a uniform, performing on TikTok and all the other bullshit. But this is what we're talking about, and people kind of justify this nonsense.
That is outrageous. Because I've literally
let me not forget. They also conflict. I did 3 interviews, and where I spoke about my life. I spoke about where I grew up. I spoke about the schools I went to. I spoke about my family. I spoke about the aviation first program. I spoke about my business. Of course, apparently you cannot mention 2 things in one sitting. So that 2 minutes I spoke about my aviation first business, they said I was utilizing my title to promote my business. So that's also in there.
Ah, I see. All right. Now I'm starting to see how they're trying to, you know, get 5 different ways for the same thing. You know?
And those interviews are on social media. You're gonna look at it. It's an hour, 2 hours long, and probably 2 minutes we spoke about. I do flight training at the end.
You see those comments being made of, oh, there's active and retired MOS, and we could see through the nonsense. You know what's sad about it? And I've been part of this culture more than 30 freaking years now. I got the gray hairs to prove it. Cops are so full of shit, it's ridiculous. They act like they know every motherfucking thing, and they don't know shit half the time. But they'll say it, and they'll believe it, they'll promote it, they'll promote each other. Meanwhile, when it gets down to business, it's not supported, which is what happened with Faison. The same thing. They did all this. They're locker room talk, locker room lawyers, and then they're fucking wrong. And they don't like it when it's done to them. But when it's done to someone else, it becomes fodder like a game. It's not a game. These things have real impacts on people's lives.
Yeah, that's the point of what I'm trying to do here. Because what's been done to Winston could be done to anyone in this chat that was either working or, you know, you don't want to say anything because you're an active executive. This could be you. I mean, they did this to other people. They did this to the guy. I mean, Eric represented him, the guy from the rant. I mean, they went after him viciously, right? That's how quick things could change. And I know he's the leper then, just like I was a leper. Nobody wanted to talk to you. The minute you're in trouble, you know, it's over. Nobody knows you anymore. You're a leper. So I'm sure
I used to be like
wait, and I want you to clarify something too. Chief Faison, are you still flying?
Yes.
Did you lose your license?
No.
So I guess whatever they're claiming you did didn't cause you to lose your flight certification, did it?
Negative.
What about as an instructor?
Still an instructor. Still flight.
Okay, so that's for all the naysayers. So you can keep on with the comments.
Well, I'll tell you, before this happened to me, you know, I used to be like them, like all those allegations, something got to be with it. Like the job is not going to spend all these hours, do all of this work, or look at this. It got to be something. And I swear, I talked to the people who worked around me, and we sit there in unbelief, like I don't believe this. Like I'm in a twilight zone. When this whole thing started unraveling, I couldn't believe. And some of the guys I worked with at the aviation unit, you know, I treated all of these guys like I'm.
No, wait. We're not going to get into that because that's going to be the subject of litigation. That's going to be debunked too. All the nonsense you'll think he's transferred, did this, that. We're going to talk about who really had flight experience and why they didn't do it and why he made certain decisions. And the certain, let's just say, allegation made against him that are actually baseless, that the city's probably going to represent Chief Faison on the baseless lawsuits that was filed. But he's going to talk about how they try to undermine him and about the lies that was done and there's a whole lot of whoppers too, including the certification they didn't have that he helped them with that they misled the public.
Yeah, I got one. There's a question here too for Winston. Did he ever answer having all his people transferred in with no aviation experience? Is that what we call high morale nowadays? Didn't you transfer people? They're admin people, right?
They're admin people.
Oh, and
they don't need aviation experience.
And you never transfer anybody out?
No.
Oh, okay. So that's the answer. There was no transfers in or out of, whatever. He didn't transfer anyone out, and the people who brought in were just extras who did administrative work. They don't fly any helicopters.
There was spots open for those administrative people to come in. Nobody got moved out of the spot that I put somebody else in. It was my ICO left. I didn't have an ICO. I got an ICO. The admin lieutenant, he's my sergeant, Dabagola, he got promoted to lieutenant. He was my admin sergeant. I had no spot. I got Lieutenant Wright to fill that position. Nobody got pushed out of or things like that.
Marlon's hitting on a point because he's an example of this. To be fair, the NYPD doesn't even need an allegation to fire you anymore, apparently, nor do they even have to put you through the trial room because he's an example of that, by the way. He's terminated without a trial room, without charges, without anything. So it really depends who you are and what you've done or who's after you, which executive. But there's a couple more charges on there.
Yep.
What's that? Failure to notify AB regarding
they claim, I wasn't aware of this. The Conflict of Interest Board had a case. They said I should have told IAB that the Conflict of Interest Board had a case against me. Now, when I spoke to the Conflict of Interest Board, they said, the first thing we do is we're going to figure out we can do a negotiation, and then that's going to go to IAB. So if you don't, we go to IAB. So I'm thinking Conflict of Interest Board, they got a unit at NYPD. Conflict of Interest Board is a city agency. Conflict of Interest Board is giving me correspondence back and forth how they are going to talk to the NYPD. I had a lawyer from the CEA, so I called my CEA. I had a lawyer who was helping me out with this Conflict of Interest Board case going back and forth. And now they charge me saying I should have notified the IB in regards to this Conflict of Interest Board case.
Interesting. I didn't know you're supposed to know that going in. Apparently, that's going to be. So you got to know everything that's going on behind the scenes for internal affairs. The Lord and Master of internal affairs. They know everything apparently. Those was it? The next one says
engaging in business with subordinates. That's what the two cops that they said that was working for me at the center. Garbage.
And then use of position to advance self-interest.
I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's a social media post or
wait a minute. I just thought about something. Who's the advocate? Who's the advocate in this case?
Green, right? David Green?
Yeah, I have him in another case. I've seen this record play before. That's what I'll say about that. I got in an active case.
Sal, let me tell you something. I got certifications on flying a helicopter, and people was making allegations. He's only doing it so he could be an instructor when he leave. And first of all, everybody in the aviation unit gets training, and it's going to affect them later on when they leave to go to another career. I don't care if you work for the detective squad, you get a job, you tell them what you did in the detective squad. However, and this is a fact, I am never flying a helicopter again. I am never going to be a flight instructor outside of the NYPD. So I did not do this to be a flight instructor in a helicopter. The helicopters you train in, we train in the Bell 407. That's like a $5 million helicopter. It's really big. It can take my weight. The helicopters you train in, technically, I'm too heavy to be in those small helicopters. And you don't train in the 407. A 407 that's something rich people use to go back and forth to the Hamptons. That's a helicopter we train in. So as far as me getting these certifications to use it outside, I don't need it. I don't need it. What I do is airplanes. So that's garbage.
I see Reed here says, I was looking at the chief's charges. I can't remember someone getting charges for AG policies, as it always has been PG violations.
Well, let me clarify that. If you know about the department, the patrol guide is slowly being converted from a patrol guide to administrative guide. So that's why you see AG charges, because the patrol guide is being reformulated to all administrative guide. So that's why you see it.
All right, I thought that was odd myself. I've never seen admin, and I know where they're going to. They just didn't write it, So next they're going to say.
If anyone is interested in seeing it, you can clearly go on the NYPD website and you can see it, or you can go on the city council, because by statute, the patrol guide has to be released to the public. And you'll see that we're in a process of converting to the administrative guide, and you'll see the slow process going on.
Yeah, I was starting to think that maybe they're going to say you were doing uncompensated security to it. That'll be the next ridiculous charge. 20 charges. I've never seen anything like that. I'll go back to this because William Rogers keeps putting this in there. Said, is it true that you were starting to give the admin lieutenant with no aviation background as well? Were you giving him any lessons? And did he get that position by no post? Is it true there was no posting for the admin lieutenant you brought in?
Yes, that's true. And that's the person I wanted. And I asked, just like everybody else, I got an opening. Listen, there's an ICO there now. Was there a post? There's a person who took Faison spot. Was there a post? Where are all of these guys in the aviation unit now that's complaining about this? Why are they not complaining now? The only difference between me and the current CO is color.
And the fact that guy was associating with felons and criminals, and he fell forward, actually, Winston. He's falling forwards, and a guy like me, they don't like political people. You got to get rid of me.
Oh, but remember, Sal, that's a fact. See, they'll say, oh, this is baseless. Go on to 58 and put in his name.
It's a fact.
And that's why they never wanted the police records to be released, because we get down to the bullshit a lot of these guys talk. They get passed along when they shouldn't get passed along, but then you scrutinize Faison for what other than you don't want him there. And I keep seeing these references to Madre. He's not a Madre fan. They're not friends. They're not connected to each other. He got there on his own merits.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about that in a second, but class 8311, $9.99 to the Sal Greco Show. I'll be having some espresso on you later. Says another great show. The attorney is always a great guest. These bosses always getting a pass. Hard to feel sorry for them when they finally get jammed up. But technically, he's not jammed up. He's just, they were trying to do that. So obviously now I got to ask this question because, it's being brought up over and over again. Winston, what is the relationship, if you have any at all, with one, Jeffrey Madry, and two, the disgraced former chief that just retired, the chief of the department, John Schell, if there is any at all?
Listen, of course I know Chief Madry. Listen, he's a black chief. Madry did great things for the community. He's a chief. I know him. We don't hang out after work. I've never seen him after work where we hung out and we friends. He didn't look out for me if we was good friends, I wouldn't have been an inspector for 5 years. Trust me. But he's not an enemy also. He's not an enemy.
And who else? And John Schell.
So listen, John Schell we used to be really. He was the CO to 6-1 when I was the XO to 6-0.
Yep, gotta remember.
We both were captains together in the same room. I really respected John Shell at the time. And listen, the truth is the truth. What happened is Shell went to Brooklyn North, and I went to Brooklyn North after him. Now, me and Madge's relationship isn't as good as people think. And John Shell seems to follow suit with whoever is above him. And our relationship, once he got to Brooklyn North, wasn't good. And listen, I don't know this for a fact, but people told me allegedly the reason why this is happening is because somebody didn't want me to get to Patrol Borough Brooklyn North and wanted to put their person in. That's all I'm gonna say with that.
Well, right, we won't mention his name, but we know who we're talking about because that's going to be part of your case. Go ahead.
I figured that. I guess the next person would be Madry's understudy, the one and only, who I referenced also with the social media, Kaz Daughtry. Do you know him at all?
Absolutely know Kaz Daughtry. Same thing. He was Madry from the beginning. Of course, I know him. We don't hang out afterwards. If we speak about anything, it's going to be something about the department. We're not casual friends. It's like, hey, let's hang out, things of that nature. So listen, if that's the suit me and Madry follow, that's the suit me and Kaz follow. And listen, I found out about my allegations about 2 weeks prior to this happening, right? All of this happened within 3 weeks. I spoke to Kaz the same day I got transferred. Nobody told me anything about this. Nobody told me anything like, yo, this might be coming down. Yo, watch out for this. Be careful about this. I was in the blind. I was not in that inner circle where somebody called me and gave me a heads up. And I don't trust anybody because people say one thing in your face and do things behind your back. And if I'm saying somebody didn't want me to get to Patrol Borough Brooklyn North and these allegations came down, that's all I'm saying.
I see. How about Tariq Shepard, another one of the Crumbs guys?
Same thing.
Same thing.
We never hung out outside of work, anything like that.
And same thing with Timmy Pearson or Phil Banks, or the two people that are like, their names are synonymous.
Tim Pearson, good guy, never worked with him. Good guy. Listen, I have nothing bad to say about any of them. You know, Tim Pearson's a good guy. Like I said, we don't hang out after work or anything. I know who he is.
Yeah.
If I see him, I give him the respect he deserves. And who else? Tim Pearson and who else?
Phil Banks.
Banks too. I never actually worked with Chief Banks, but he get the respect that he deserved. You know, we don't call back and forth. We don't hang out with the same crew. Listen, nobody can ever associate me with a crew. I was always by myself. I set my own crew. Nobody can say Faison is with this team or that team. Some of my problems was because I wasn't with a team.
Yeah, I just, you know, I'm trying to, because everyone, those are like a lot of questions behind the scenes were always Faison knows Banks or knows Pearson or knows Kaz or knows Shell or knows Madry or knows Eric. You know, that's always
every black executive on this job because there's not many of us. You know, it's not many of us. How many black chiefs you have? Of course you're going to know. Listen, Madry is a legend. Madry's been around for how long? Who don't know Madry?
He's been around a long time.
Who don't know Madry?
I never
off this job.
I never met him, but I know because he was in Brooklyn North, but I everybody knew who he was. He just, I never encountered him, but I did know John Shell, who happens, I think these days you'll hear a lot worse things coming out. Well, he's the latest guy to leave, but it's like on par with Madry, what you hear about what these guys were doing I'm saying the last couple of years. I can't go back all these different, because there was a time, like you said, and it's funny you say that, people did respect John Shell because, like I said, he was a worker. He liked workers, but the side catch, or whatever you just said, he liked the people above him. So if you're underneath him, let's say, I mean, you were in the same rank, but let's say you were his captain and he's a deputy inspector, and your name comes up in any kind of questioning from any, internal affairs or inspections, he's throwing you to the wolves. He doesn't know you. He didn't follow his training. That's what he's going to do. That was his reputation, and that was the catch with him. So he likes workers. He works, but don't get caught up in anything, because then he completely abandons you. And that's what he's done to this day, Shell.
Hey, Sal, can I just inject one thing, because he quite didn't answer it?
Yeah.
Can you talk about the person that rode with you out to Farmingdale? Without mentioning the person's name, but don't mention the name. Just talk about why, because that's more misinformation you could address. Because I can address it. Mm-hmm.
That's the last charge on there. I think we have 3 more. It was the next page. Did you guys see it?
There's another page? I thought there was just one.
No, it's another page. I sent it. The violation of the next one is, again, failed to notify NTSB. And then the next one is administrative guide, personal social media accounts and policy. And the last one is the one falsifying department record helicopter log. And that all ties into, that's the last one. And let me explain that one. So we have a airplane assigned to the aviation. Everybody knows it. It was
okay. Wait, but don't talk about that. Just say.
Okay, so we utilize different airports to do training all over. That's what we do. We was going to, I can say the airport, right? All right, we was going to Islip. Now, on the way to Islip, I stopped at Farmingdale, and it's crazy. I left my wallet in my plane. Somebody found it. Actually, somebody found it near my plane and put it in my storage box. So we fly to different airports. So I said, you know what? On the way to Islip, I'm going to stop at Farmingdale, pick up my wallet, fly to Islip, do what I do in the Islip, my job, and then we're going to fly back. The distance between Islip and Farmingdale is about 3-minute flight, and it's in the route. And we use Farmingdale all the time for training. No biggie. I didn't think no biggie of it. I landed at Farmingdale, got my wallet, flew to Islip, and came back. So now, normally when you come back, we have a flight log. It's not any legal documents or anything, but the pilots put in the Hobbs time. The Hobbs time is every time the helicopter pick off, time start clocking, and when it lands, it start clocking. So you put in how much time you flew in that helicopter. You put in log, and you put in how many landings you put in, right? So that day I was going to Islip. I stopped at Farmingdale, got my wallet, went to Islip, and came back. And then, and I didn't know where they was coming. They showed me the flight log, and they go, "Did you fill this out?" And I said, "No, I didn't fill that out." "You sure you didn't fill this out?" "No, I didn't fill this out." And they asked I know when they GO15, my assistant, they was like, "Is this his handwriting? Is this his signature?" And so I didn't know where he was coming from until I saw this. So basically, normally when I come in, as a CO, I don't do that paperwork. The desk officer might do it for me and things of that nature. Somebody put 2 landings instead of 3 landings. So they said, they thought I doctored her to try to hide that I went to Farmingdale, but I didn't even fill that out. But they didn't charge me for that. But it's crazy.
You know what's funny? But you know what's funny, Chief Faison? You know what's analogous to? You know these unmarked vehicles where you have the log and you're supposed to track your mileage and all this other kind of nonsense? Are those ever filled out the way consistent with department policy? No. So this becomes the petty bullshit games they play, because it's clear that if you landed somewhere, they can obviously find out you landed somewhere, right? You just don't land in airports. There's got to be a clearance before you land, right?
And they had the flight aware, and
okay, that's what I thought.
Somebody sent that to Ivy. They sent the flight aware. They sent and it's guys that work in the aviation unit. They sent it all the way. They sent everything to every move I made in the aviation unit since I got there was being either jotted down, and every time I speak, I know I'm being recorded. So it's nothing I'm going to say in private that I won't say in public, because they're always recording me. And it's
so someone says that what I just did with the logs is do an analogy. I mean, I know some people don't understand that, and every once in a while I do sarcastic stuff like this because the people don't understand, because they may not be able to intellectually understand what I just did, but it's called an analogy. You're supposed to keep track of things, and by definition, these are just comparisons. Log for this, log for that. So when you play the nickel and dime game, which is what they're doing here, at the end of the day, in order for them to land somewhere, there has to be a goddamn clearance. You just don't fly into the airport and say, I'm going to land with a plane. No, it doesn't work that way. So there's a way to check it. You can't hide it anyway. So it's ridiculous. That's the point. It's ridiculous. It becomes nickel and dime bullshit. And for people who think that this is, oh, what he's saying doesn't matter. I've settled cases like this before, baby, because this undermining him is what they did is bullshit, because all these charges yielded nothing. That's the point. And you can't see it. It's sad you can't see it. But that's why he's here.
I see TC said, is there pending litigation? If so, this podcast was a horrible idea. So, Eric, isn't there pending litigation? Am I right or am I wrong?
No, this is a great idea, TC. You don't understand, baby. I've been in this game a long time. I've been on both sides. Remember, I was a cop. I know some people forget that. And then I'm a lawyer. Believe me, I know this craft and I know it well. And I'm in business 20-something years later. You know what that means? That means I know what I'm doing. All right. The podcast is done for one purpose, because this man was smeared all over the news about all this outlandish bullshit by his subordinates. Right. And at the end of the day, there's an investigation. You're likely believing these investigations, but they're bullshit. That's a whole nother story. At the end of the day, this is the best they can do. No money was made, no conflict of interest. Oh, he took a picture of a patch. It's bullshit. And anyone should be concerned about this. And someone mentioned Cone, right? Someone mentioned Cone as being more qualified than Faison. I have a
so
if it had worked right and the person would have followed through when I had a case against Cone, we wouldn't be saying that. So see, I've been around a while. So you can blow smoke up other people's butt, but see, I know enough of the game players to know how it works. So Cone may look good on paper, but his unit was far worse than this unit, and you couldn't get a black pilot back then.
Let me
know what you're talking about.
Let me just let you know, there was never, ever a certified flight instructor who was the CEO of that unit. That's what I want to say.
Say that again. Say that again.
There was never a certified flight instructor in helicopters, which I am, was the CEO of that unit.
Oh, and for anyone who's interested in checking, since you're talking all this nonsense, and I do this sometime because, hey, I'm a fiery guy. I believe in looking out for my client. The bottom line is, go check it. And I challenge the police department to come out with a narrative to say what he's just said isn't true.
Yeah, I see. I definitely see I saw Cohen come up. His name is up.
And you know what? You got and Cohen. I respect him, but it's funny how you got to go back 10 years to find somebody else retired 10 years ago to even get close to where I am. Find somebody right now to take my spot. How about that, Charlie? Or whoever said it.
Yeah, no, I say Reed says something too, and he said when you got assigned to an aviation unit chief, the department should have mentioned your aviation credentials along with your background instead of pushing being the first black CO. No offense, but made a DEI.
Well, listen.
You need to stop the DEI bullshit. It's all code language for black. The bottom line is he's qualified, and that's all to it. The reason why they have first, because historical context, it means something. Even if you don't agree with it, really, who cares? The other thing is, I'm not going to make him comment on the military. I'm going to comment on the military because that's going to be subject to litigation. This man, no one else in the police department has anything against people in the military. What you have to understand is they're trained to fly one way, and when you're in a civilian aircraft, you have to fly another way. This is not the military, okay? So there's a reason why they have to be retrained to think about how to fly a civilian aircraft. Completely different operation. That's what I'll say about that. So he's
0071. The current XO is not nowhere near qualified as I am.
I do have a question. I saw him mentioning before. I don't know if it has anything to do with any litigation coming up, but you mentioned the former lieutenant of yours that became a chief. He's actually just basically telling everyone what to do. That's Richie Taylor. Now, there's a story that this guy got a helicopter, aviation, to go over his home for his daughter's birthday party or some kind of party. Of course, if that's the case, I believe he would have had to call you, Chief, and say, hey, we need this flyover. Instead, that's not what we came to understand out of the situation. I don't know if he could comment or you know about any of those details.
No, he's not going to comment it, but I will tell you this, because that's all going to be litigation too.
Okay.
That is established. That's my comment. So we don't have to say anything else, do we? And,
So
and the department knows who to go to get the answer, but it's established that happened.
That is that is now. Can you answer to any of this? There's also allegations of aviation, helicopter being used for rides, not attributed to aviation, as in Mayor Eric Adams, Keyshawn Sewell, Eddie Caban, Richie Taylor, any one of his other cronies, maybe even Jessica Tisch. I mean, I heard her name. Any of these people somehow get rode around through aviation, yet there's no record or anything about that anywhere with them.
I won't let him comment on that either, because that's going to be subject of litigation of the selective enforcement issue, but he's going to deal with that. And I want to comment another thing. No one said that people in the military is not qualified to fly. That's not what I say. You guys, your listening skills are very important. What I said was there's a difference between flying in the military and flying civilian aircraft. Okay, they teach you how to fly them a lot different, because those are aggressive roles. Civilian aircraft are not designed to be aggressive roles. That's what I'm talking about, and that's the easy way for me to explain it. If you don't understand that, I don't know. I don't know what more to tell you. They don't teach them to scrape grounds and do all this other kind of stuff. They just don't teach them that, because that's not what civilian aircraft are used for. They're observation tools, most of them. They're not there to shoot people down. And come on, stop it. You guys are being ridiculous.
I see. It said the current XO is a military Black Hawk pilot, but the CO is a guy who should have been terminated a long time ago. So I don't even know how that works. With they having the wrong guys in charge. I don't know what to say. Same deputy, same CO of the whole of SOD. Ramblis is still the CO of the whole thing, but that guy that's there right now in aviation, you go and look. He was caught criminally associating and running names for a gang member. How he didn't get terminated and he actually falls forward is beyond me. Because as you know, you're sitting to a guy, you're looking at a guy that they said, you're criminally associated with someone, but you got to lose everything. Throw everything down the toilet for you. I find that quite disturbing, actually, that guy is running that unit right now. And and by the way, I don't know if you know, that guy has he clearly, he's never flown a helicopter in his life. The CO that's there now.
Yeah, no one said anything about that. Okay.
No, but that's the point. And the comments are so ridiculous that every once in a while I have to address them. It's kind of funny. The bottom line is that flying a Black Hawk has zero to do with flying a civilian aircraft. Completely different animals. And if you can't understand that, we're living in a sad world.
And let me tell you something. It's really difficult to supervise any members if you don't know what they do. And that's part of the problem. My knowledge limits those cops to work how they want to work. Before I got there, the cops and the detectives ran that unit. And listen, I like the former CO, but he didn't know anything about aviation. He had to rely on the cops and the detectives to tell him what they can and cannot do. So when I got there with my knowledge, and I know the rules and the regulations when it comes to aviation. Some things I say, no, you can do that, or you cannot do that. They don't want someone there knowledgeable who can really challenge them on the aviation rules and regulations. They want someone where they can tell them what to do. And it's a weird unit because that's the only unit where nobody knows, even like the chief of department will have to, I can tell him anything. He has to believe me because he don't know, right? So now you have cops and detectives who are certified flight instructors, and it's a weird entity. So think about this. You have, when I got there, it was about 4 or 5 certified flight instructors, right? These guys are there. They're the only guys that can train cops, sergeants, lieutenants to get their ratings. Now you have a cop that's training a lieutenant. Now, in order for that lieutenant to take his practical oral exam, that cop has to say, I feel like you're ready to take that test. He has to sign you off and say, I feel you. It's not no, after you do a certain amount of hours, you automatically get it. It's not a test. That cop got to feel. Those cops and detectives had the sergeants and lieutenants under them initially, because if you don't treat me right, I won't train you or I won't sign you off. And legally, no one can tell a certified flight instructor you have to sign that person off. So the structure was upside down in that unit. That's why it was important for me to become a CFI, so I could do the training if I have to. Not right now, they have 3 certified flight instructors, right? One, Detective Charles, who used to be my chief pilot. They giving him a hard time right now. You don't understand what's going on there. And so, it's to the point he want to go to the midnights now because they abusing him. He was a certified flight instructor. Then you have another young lady who she hasn't instructed in a while. And then you got one guy. So this one guy essentially is in charge of that whole unit. And the unit is in his hands. If he go, I don't feel like training, the unit does not move. And Joey Knight, I don't want to entertain, he just, of course there's no rank in the cockpit, but if you are an instructor and the guy's aviation career is in your hands, guess what? There is a rank. You outrank that person because you can slow his progression down.
There you go. There you go. Did you say that again? Because some people they didn't get that connection.
Yeah, you can slow that person's progression down. And it happens all the time where I would tell guys like, no, move this person to this person because he's not signing them off. So now I can say, you know what? I'll take them up. And if they need to be signed off, then I will sign them off. You're not going to hold a person down. That's why the detectives and the cops ran that unit, and they're going to continue to run that unit.
Bingo! Now you know. It was an inside corruption. That's what's really going on. If they want you in, they'll help you. If they don't want you in, they make sure you don't get the qualified training, and then guess what? You're gone. So that's the real story here.
I see. I definitely see. Because, I mean, I don't know how you could best describe things, Winston. What is it like when you were there in aviation? Obviously, you walked in. You're the new guy in there. I don't know. Guys have been there for a while. I don't even know who's in the unit. I just remember I've been to Floyd Bennett Field. Everybody there is always nice to me. So, but I don't know the dynamics of how aviation works. Lately I'm hearing grumblings whether this CO, this guy should unqualified to be there. But, in the NYPD, you fall forward under certain people. So what was it like to be there? Because you're saying you can't even walk around. They're trying to record you. I mean, this sounds like it's hostile, and it sounds like there's certain people that, they're automatically, they had it out for you from day one.
So I want you to talk to anybody who's retired from the job, used to be in the aviation unit. There's people, the aviation unit can be a pretty toxic place. You would think it's the best place to work, but you got to understand, aviation is unlike any other place. And the cops go into the aviation base, it's probably about, say, 12 cops working on that platoon. You don't speak to nobody else except for those 12 cops. You're not going out to get something to eat because you're assigned to flying. The only people you see is those 12 cops, and that's all you interact with. And it could be kind of constraining, and that's why you get that infighting. I think they need space. It's just not a lot of things going on in aviation, and it's almost like If you put somebody in a prison and this is all they could do, you go into Floyd Bennett Field, you stay there for 8.5 hours, and you drive out. You don't have no interactions with the community. You can't just walk to the store, get something to eat. You're stuck there. It could become a pretty toxic place. And it's a lot of going back and forth. And don't get me wrong, it's not all the cops in the aviation unit, because most of the cops are good cops. It's only a handful that's making the most noise. So that's what it is. The handful is just making a lot of noise. And some people, I'm actually surprised, and we'll talk about that later on, but it's flabbergasted. Like, I'm like, wow, I can't believe this person.
Remember,
Yeah.
one of the rules said that we will not talk about it.
Yep.
The naysayers are going to find out when I bring my case, because of course we have documents to back up what we're talking about, unlike the crybabies, I call them. Yeah, there was corruption going on in the unit, and they had the audacity to try to push back against the breaking of it. That's what it really boils down to. He didn't say it, I'm saying it.
I see. Yeah, because it's just, it's just, I guess it's a lot to take in, because this is the first time I've heard any, like, I know everybody saw the initial, report and the New York Post, and now we're actually hearing it from your side. And by the way, I know somebody said, I don't know if you were joking, when I went to Floyd Bennett Field, I didn't go to aviation. There was training there. I believe also Brooklyn South Inspections is that other building across, and there's two different buildings, right? And then you go to where Highway was, which obviously, being in traffic, you had to go there for training and stuff. So that's Floyd Bennett Field. I didn't go inside the hangar. Nobody gave me a joyride. I don't know anyone at aviation. So just so people know, I'm learning. This is the first time I'm hearing about what aviation actually does. I have no idea.
Oh, well, that's my point. On the Cohen, I was going to bring a case against aviation for some very corrupt issues, but the person didn't follow through. So that's why I keep seeing Cohen's name. I start laughing and go, you guys don't know what you're talking about. All you're talking about is the corrupt crew that was in there before. So what are you talking about? This is why this man has been trying to, and I know people like to use the words, oh, it's a big conspiracy. The bottom line is, after all the investigations, we wind up with White Sox nonsense, which we're going to deal with, and whether or not that's even valid.
That's the other thing too, because out of all those charges, right? Like what? One, they only ended up with 1 out of 17.
So they charged me with the conflict of interest board. They charged me with failure to notify the conflict of interest board, and they charged me with, and this is, and we're going to go back and forth. Anybody who's going to do a negotiation plea, please take an outside lawyer with you, and take your time doing it. It's almost like, they set you up like you're a perp. They'll put you in a room. My negotiation hearing started at 10 a.m. My lawyer just happened not to be there, but he was on speakerphone. I had my delegate there. We negotiated. Originally, after the GO-15, they served me the charges. It was 2 charges, the conflict of interest board and failed to notify. And then when I sat down, they added another charge, which was NTSB or other types of, and I was like, I'm not signing it. As soon as I saw it, I walked out. And then the deputy commissioner said, yeah, you got to come back. They kept me in that room. They kept going back and forth with wording. I told my lawyer I felt pressured. He told them, listen, he can no longer negotiate if my client's saying he feels pressure. The deputy commissioner is like, you know what? Just take a break, come back in an hour. At 3:30, I was spent.
So wait. So now, what I'll do, because this is going to be the subject of litigation, I will say this. Eventually, he signed a document, but it wasn't for all those charges. That's going to be the subject of litigation.
The last charge was failed to notify the department. Let me give it to you. I'm going to read it exactly. The last charge was, I'm going to put on my Deputy Chief Faison, while assigned to the aviation unit, engaged in conduct prejudicial to the good order, efficiency, and discipline of the department by failing to make or ensuring the making of notifications deemed appropriate by the department. So we went back and forth with wording, and they said, how about we just say deemed appropriate? Are you okay with that? It got to the point I said, let me sign it. And then, listen, I didn't feel comfortable even signing it. The next morning at 9 a.m., because they said, listen, once the PC sign off on it, it's final. The PC normally takes about a week or two, sometimes months to sign off on it. The next morning at 10 a.m., I called my lawyer and said, I want to rescind that negotiation. They came back and said, no, the PC already signed it, and they refused to rescind it. So from 3:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock the next morning, the PC already signed off on it. And then they couldn't give me a copy until about a week later.
Yeah, that's definitely out of procedure and all that. That's not the way it's supposed to happen. I also find it odd how your charges, I think 4 or 5 of them are basically trying to say misuse of social media, but they would window dress it 5 different ways.
Yeah.
Just like me.
Yeah. And not to interject, but more importantly, all those crimes that were listed, there's no plea about a crime. You see, this is what I'm talking about. If you're being objective and being fair towards him, you see a lot of stuff being thrown at him, but at the end of the day, it's catch-all nonsense. So he wasn't committing crimes. He wasn't falsifying records, none of the nonsense that they claim. And anyone that is a fair, objective person should be offended by that, because that means the government wielded its power against a person that has no power. And that should scare everyone, because they could do it to him, they could do it to you, could do it to someone else, and you may not think it can happen to you, but it can happen to you. And this should concern anyone. Without going further, because there's certain things about the so-called negotiated settlement that is very problematic and illegal, I'm not going to talk about it. So, but there's going to be litigation, and he's going to address all that stuff. The so-called overtime he gave all these people, if you really looked at the numbers of overtime, that's inaccurate. The black people didn't get all this overtime. Actually, it worked different ways. But we're going to address all of the nonsense that cops talk about, because most of the time it's rumor and BS instead of factual. He didn't give me training, but no, he actually is the one that was training you, because the other cops didn't want to work with you. Notice I'm not saying the names, but I know who they're connected to. Oh, he transferred me. He moved me here. The cops didn't want to work with this person. He didn't say that. Misleading bullshit. We're going to address all of that in his case, because all they were doing, trying to undermine his authority because of all the problems that was in the unit, and now you're going to learn about them.
Yeah, I see William Rogers too. He says abusing your authority and position to benefit yourself isn't a crime, but that's not what he was charged with, nor did he plead to anything like that. That's the thing. I'm just trying to say, I know a lot of people, again, the feelings, you got to pull back. What is he actually guilty of? Is two things that have nothing to do with everything they were looking at. So that means that everything you heard was a whole lot of nothing. I mean, they told you that I was a member of a subversive group, that they said, oh, at the end, you're not guilty, because I was never part of a group. They actually took a picture. I'm in front of these guys, or these guys were doing the real security for my friend there, and they're trying to say that I'm doing uncompensated security. I know these guys. I just met one of them that day. I don't know anything about these people, but they said that I was a part of this group. I'm in another picture. I'm a friend of this guy, apparently. There's no communication. There's nothing. The communication that took place in my case, in fact, happened all in the same 10-hour frame that I was in D.C. while this guy was doing his security. And he was texting me because my friend Roger wouldn't answer him, and I'm the only guy next to him, and I'm the only guy that goes, oh, well, what's going on? Does he need us? So, a lot of these things you got to do. You got to do things factual. You can't just throw things against the wall.
Because I see one person, I'm not even going to mention the person name because I don't think it deserves me to mention it, but he keeps talking about how he's not talking about the big picture stuff. He addressed every allegation that was in the newspaper. He didn't have to show you his charges. He showed you what they accuse him of. He didn't have to do that either. I don't know what it is for some people. They just can't accept reality. You know why you can't accept reality? Because you rather deal with your distorted picture. Then the question is why? Maybe you can't see it because you don't want to be a fair person. Maybe because it's this guy's right. I don't know. Maybe it could be a combination of all the above. But it's really sad because he's not hiding anything. He didn't have to do this. He's doing it to address how you smeared him in the media, how you smeared him on social media. He addressed everything. The only thing he didn't do was tell you what's going to be in a lawsuit yet. When you see that, it's going to address this and more.
And overtime code. Nobody changed the overtime codes. They got the federal overtime because they were supposed to get it. So somebody said you can't lie about overtime codes. Nobody changed the overtime code. They got federal overtime because they were supposed to, and they can get federal overtime. Just like the administration people who's doing it today.
Okay, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, listen, I give you a lot of credit. Even you coming on. I mean, you're taking a lot of heat in the room here. You know, you're not ducking anything. I mean, a lot of the questions are like repetitive stuff. But I think you've already addressed a lot of it. And again, I urge people. You know, I feel you. A lot of emotions. I get red hot too. You know, I'm watching a Ranger hockey game. I lose my mind too. But you know, the facts are what we're stating is here. He was charged with these 17 charges, and all of the stuff everybody's saying is criminal stuff. He's not in a criminal investigation, and the 2 charges he even pled to, which is going to be in question, had nothing to do with all that administrative guy, all that other nonsense they were trying to say. So, you know, it's just like you're trying to say, what was that? What did it say about me? I'm trying to overthrow the government. How'd that work out? That was as fake as anyone could have ever written. But the job, they actually took this serious because they saw an opening, and that's what they want to do. And it sounds like to me, there's a lot of that same fur being thrown towards Winston here with 17 charges, and it's ridiculous because they came after him for charges that they should have went after 2 individuals, particularly that were very high up in the police department.
Well, I want to say something else about the military because, Sanders hates the military. So let me give you a little quick thing about me. First of all, my family is highly connected to the military, big time. Matter of fact, my uncle was a command sergeant major. So if you know anything about it, that means he was the highest uniform ranking guy in the Air Force. So he's as good as the top of the Air Force. All right. So I've been connected to the military for years. Besides myself, if I'd have really followed through, and this is one of the things I told Chief Faison, our first man, I said, a little disclosure for you. You know, I should have finished that Marine program because if I'd have finished it, I could have been flying F-18s off a carrier and maybe flying big Airbus all over the world. But no, I decided to become a cop. So if you keep talking about I don't like the military, you don't even know what you're talking about because I love the military. And that wasn't the problem. The problem is something more germane to how civilian aircraft are being used. That's the difference.
I see here. Well, that first question, I'd say, because William Rogers asked you, didn't meaning you, Winston. He also made cops refuel for him and tell him that chiefs don't refuel themselves.
Absolutely.
You did that?
Yeah.
Okay. This other one, you can't answer the thing.
Wait. Is that a rule? Is that a rule that's been broken? Wait a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute. I thought the sergeants and the command sergeants, lieutenants, the captains, the drivers, what do? They fucking fuel the cars. You know, your people are ridiculous already. Come on. It's an analogy, the same thing. Okay, the manager manages and the people, they work for the managers. What's the problem?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know that other question you can't answer because it's what I asked you about, but everybody riding the helicopter, because of course I'm bringing up some names that, you know, there's a lot to go on who was taking the helicopter when maybe they shouldn't have, and there's nothing documented anywhere, but that's a story for another time, you know?
Let me explain something about that incident because it's funny. I've fueled the helicopter many times. There's one particular incident. I get out the helicopter and the person who was driving the fuel truck never got out. So I told him, like, what are you doing? And he says, you know, normally the person who's getting trained fuel the helicopter. And I told him, no, you fuel it, because it was disrespectful. Because if it was any other chief, you would have got out and did it. But for you to be arrogant enough to stay in the truck and try to look at me fuel the helicopter, I told him to get out and fuel the helicopter. And from that time on, I said, chiefs don't fuel helicopters. But I've done it afterwards. But for that particular case, because of his arrogance, I made him fuel the helicopter. That's what that was about.
I see.
Now, you see the opposite word he said, if it was another chief. You see what's implied in that? Because you know damn well he wouldn't speak to another chief that way. See, that's what they're telling you. And for those who think this is great that he's come on a podcast because it's a public forum so he can get his name out there about what was done to him. So believe me, we know this craft well for those who think it's not effective, because it is. It only way to push back the narrative, because you guys you'll put things in fucking lawsuits, go hire people who are going to bring bullshit lawsuits and say nasty things against you. And then you never challenge, and the person doesn't get to say it. Now he's getting the challenge. He's taking it on. He's looking at the newspaper. So, oh, yeah, this is false. This is false. That's why it's false. This is false. That's false. And guess what? After all the stuff that's done to him, oh, you failed to report this. You failed to report that. Minor nonsense. Come on, guys.
Now, just coming on this podcast can put me in can be a liability to me. It could be a liability to me. But I want all the smoke. I want all the smoke because I have nothing to hide. That's why I can answer these questions without looking down, because I lived it and I know what I do and what I've done. Now, what really bothers me is because this Aviation for Us program I had at the center was a real great program, and it helped a lot of kids. At least 200 to 300 kids went through that, and it changed their lives. So when you start throwing dirt on that program, that's the problematic part for me. I don't appreciate that. If you knew what the parents and everybody who benefited from that program, and then to try to link that into some corruption, that's my problem. And my problem is I don't know what the Commissioner Tisch knows, because I walked in front of my desk before and I saw a sign saying, as per the CEO, and I go, I never said this shit, right? So I don't know what she know or what she don't know. But what I do know is it was unjust and it wasn't fair. And it should have been handled the way it was handled. And I have a problem with that. And it's a reflection not just on me, for everybody who look up to me, who inspire to be like me. It's a reflection on all of that. And then lastly, the 3 guys they booted out of aviation, right? When I came in, I didn't boot anybody out. And then to try to force them to do a 57 so they can and give them and tell them, like, listen, no, we're not throwing you out. We're just going to let you get a good start, and whatever you need, just fill out this 57 to say you request to leave, and we'll put you any way you want. No, they don't want to leave. Just throw them out then. But don't try to get them to sign. And somebody said, then why you sign a negotiation? You know, on the outside looking in, because I beat myself up that whole night. I said, why the hell did I sign that negotiation? But sometimes when you in a certain place, you're tired. I'm telling you, you sign it just to get out of there. And that was my mistake. And I beat myself up over that all the time. But what they doing to the other 3 guys, the XO who work hard, when the XO interviewed for his position, Chief of Ramblers was so impressed with him that he wanted to take him to ESU. He had nothing to do with this, nothing. And then automatically they come to him and go, "We sending you back to patrol." He went from he put his papers in. He put his papers in the next day, because you can't take a person from the most elite unit who did nothing wrong and transfer him based on false allegations against me before the investigation is complete.
This is I tend to agree that I know they always do that, and whoever's around, it's like collateral damage. But I don't agree with that, because he should at least, they question him, and then if they see anything wrong, but I think how it works. It's like predetermined. They have predetermined reactions to everything, because they already know the answers. But there's one question here. Special Hagen says this: prior to these charges, did Faison have any disciplinary history?
I think I had 1 or 2 CDs, but I never had charges. I probably had 2 CDs in my career.
So command disciplines, so you don't know, are not counted against you. And matter of fact, if he didn't tell you about it, you wouldn't even see it, because they're minor violations.
Yeah, minor violations. I never got in trouble with the department. Never was a subject of anything. Allegations was always made. Never got charges, specs, anything like that. 25 years. And listen, I don't care what anybody says. There's no such thing as a lucky Saturday. You give up a part of your life to study to get to where you are. My aviation career, I spent over $200,000 for my aviation career before I got to aviation. So aviation community is small. So when you start seeing things like he's not safe, right? What happens to people who was going to fly with me the next week? And that's their favorite word. He's not safe. You don't know what he's doing. And you know who's saying this? Listen, it's compared to the people who saying this. They are like probationary police officers in the academy before they got their gun and shell, telling a first grade detective in a homicide squad how to deal with the case. That's the difference between me and the person sitting next to me who's making these complaints.
I see.
They're not even qualified to fly in the helicopter yet. They don't even have a license. And you're telling me.
I see this. William Rogers he wants to reference. They don't mess with you much when you got Kaz and Madry on speed dial. So I mean, for the record, those guys, but it's not like you could actually call them for anything.
Yeah. But you know what the bottom line is? He knows because he's this person. Wasn't going to mention his name because I don't think I should dignify myself by mentioning his name. But he's been saying this nonsense from the beginning. He's been here for a while, so he already heard him say that he has no connection to these people. He doesn't have anything bad to say about them, and that's the bottom line. So keep bringing up this kind of nonsense is stupid to even respond to it.
Yeah.
Don't even dignify with a response because it's ridiculous. It's not no question on being asked in good faith. It's bullshit.
Yeah, so I'm going to read out couple of things, and I'll let Winston, if you want to wind things down. Our bad said 999 to the Sal Greco Show. Says Sal is fully responsible for me tolerating my lefty sister-in-law. I used to point out she's a low IQ 1Q TDS cult member. Now it's low information. No one gets upset. Thank you. Our bad. He then another 999 says, I give him credit for coming on. That meaning you, Winston, and Eric Sanders is the attorney I want defending me. I am still trying to figure out how Kaz, Herbert Jr., Madry, Shell, and the rest were running the NYPD. Look, we all want to know. I guess that's a question for Eric L. Adams, who's now leaving to go to Israel. Still won't settle my case. But everybody else, all these January 6th. You know what's funny? If you went in the Capitol and did anything stupid and were charged with a crime, you have nothing to worry about versus me who did nothing and still is in purgatory, essentially, from the NYPD, from all of this stuff. And it's still lingering. Isn't that amazing? Do nothing, be accused of something, suffer for eternity. Do something for real, actually even beat up people. It's like it never happened. You're a hero. You're expunged, apparently. That's how we're looking at this right now.
You know what's sad when I look at this, and it just reminds me why I'll always do his job if I really want to, because people take words and they twist them the way they want them to twist, and then sometimes people say things and they say it in loose ways, I call it, but then that's when I come along to say, no, this is what they're telling you. This is exactly what they're telling you. So if you go back, and I know people say, oh, look at his previous interview, look at anything you want to look at. The bottom line to all of this is, he wasn't criminally charged or anything because he didn't commit any crimes. He didn't lose his certification because he didn't violate any rules. He's still a flight instructor, and then everything else that come along with it. So your feelings about this means nothing. It really means nothing. That's your hang up. That has nothing to do with him, because even the police department didn't find him guilty. And by the way, that negotiated plea is, like I said, that's going to be a subject of litigation. It didn't say anything about him committing crimes, falsifying records, or anything. So keep saying it over and over again. Either shows you're either not paying attention or you're being disingenuous in your argument. And if you're being disingenuous, I'm not going to have him keep addressing because it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Because he's already did this. He didn't have to do this, I mean, not that I'm upset. I think it's actually very interesting to see, but you're just wasting his time.
I'm actually honored he actually came on, because I'll be honest, he's one of these guys who's been taking a lot of incoming, and it takes a lot to step up to the plate. Even though, look, I know you're a chief, you've been through it all, you've seen it all, but this is like being in you're in the middle of the Roman Colosseum back in the day. Like, that's what this feels like. You're like, I see some of these people, man. Oh my God. And some of the things you can't address, there's pending litigation. I think you answered as much as you can. Eric is one thing. 1804 Banks, he sent $4.99 to the podcast. He said, is there any new update on the 31 officers regarding the psychological situation?
That
unlike a psychologist.
the PBA will have to answer that question, but I can tell you, I had a conversation with people. I won't say how many, but I've had conversation about it, and I see that case at this rate because it's been adjourned again to December. I've seen that kick over till hopefully Tish leaves, and then they'll resolve it the way they should have resolved it in the first place. Is that they shouldn't be terminated, because my little birdie tells me that a certain individual that made decisions was right on the head all along. And they don't even want to get into the fact of trying to scrutinize these psychologists because, of course, the work I've done on it, you find out that they're not meeting the guidelines anyway. So by definition, all these psychological assessments are BS. None of them are qualified because they don't meet the standards.
I figured you said
law, not Eric's law. That's the law that they don't apply.
I figured you say something like that because of the whole thing with I know it's the soccer mom is just, she has a couple of other decisions to make soon in regards to CCRB and certain officers, 9-year investigations. It's insane that every police commissioner has kicked this can down the road. It's finally right in someone's face. I don't know what they're going to do with it. She's got a lot of things to answer for, and this is one of them. Because this whole unlicensed psychologist thing, this is her mess. And I don't know, she should resolve this, but probably not, because that's what they all do, these police commissioners.
Because they can never admit that they're wrong about anything.
No,
God forbid.
So Winston, Chief, I think you've been on for quite a while. You answered a lot. Is there anything you want to say, on your way out, or anything regarding anything, or just anything?
One more claim, and this is to Rob Lukash again. He says something like, how he get promoted to a 1-star? There was never a 1-star in aviation. And you know what? At one point, SOD wasn't a 3-star. But precedents always can start at any time. So think about this. I got promoted to 1-star. It started a chain reaction because Rob Lukash was a 1-star with the XO. Now I get promoted to a 1-star. Guess what? They promote Chief Dowling, who had Rob Lukash spot, to a 2-star. So did anybody say, why is Chief Dowling a 2-star? He was never a 2-star. I think you guys should be thanking me because I set in motion for the XO now to be a 2-star. Thank you. You're welcome.
Hey, can you just do something? Because I saw something. I can respect the person who did that. And I think John put up a comment.
Oh, John McCarry, yes.
That Faison needs to hear.
Yeah. John McCarry said that everyone has a lot to say, but Faison willingly came on the podcast, told his side, and he is still an active pilot and instructor. Your personal feelings are just that. I personally thought he was unqualified, but I was 100% wrong.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And, I'll say this, look, I knew you because, look, I worked underneath you. I got to say this, you were a commanding officer. You never bothered anybody. You, too, liked active cops, but you let the supervisor underneath you do what they had to do. I can't say that for other people, that were there prior. And then, of course, we had a certain guy who became a chief of department that was very hands-on and crushed supervisors. And you can look back at his record. You weren't like that. So, I could attest to that. This whole thing, I hope this goes well, or at least, the truth all gets pushed out in front, because there's a couple of things you couldn't answer that I think a lot of people want to know about, like the flights and all that stuff, because it's well known and documented. These guys were flying around, and I highly doubt they asked you for any permission, but you can answer that at another date, I see Rob Lukash says, I give you that, Winston. You are correct. So there you go. All right, Winston.
And that goes to the litigation issue. How some people qualification of the question as opposed to other. So guess what that makes an argument for, people? This is why I'm in business. That's what you don't see. That was just one comparator. Look at how he was being treated, because that's what the real story is.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, Eric, I need you to stay. Like, I got one last thing to ask you. It's going to be something different. Winston, the floor is yours before you leave. If you want anyone to follow you, you check out your nonprofit. Anything you got, let it rip.
the last time I mentioned my business on a podcast, conflict of interest board came out on me. So I have enough. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Listen, God bless Winston. Good man. Eric, listen, he answered a lot. There's a lot. I mean, he was on for over 2 hours. You know, he doesn't have a problem with anything. I know some people may not like things, but it is what it is, you know. And there's litigation coming. So, but I definitely have one particular thing to ask you, and that's let people know a little update on what happened with our thing, because I saw, like I said, I mentioned Trump literally pardoned everyone from January 6th, and they actually were involved in stuff. I wasn't, and I still have a case that now we have a little issue with a ruling, and it looks like, you know, they don't want us to get a hold of the police commissioner.
Yeah, we're gonna see if we can work around that. You know, there's a couple ways to deal with that, and of course, I'm going to talk to you about it and what I think is the best approach. But I find it interesting because out of all the cases I've ever handled, I ran into this particular problem, and that means get to the police commissioner, because obviously, if we get to the police commissioner, that gets to the heart of who the decision makers are, because that's what this case really boils down to. Because we already know. We already deposed Cutter, right, who was this guy's supervisor, and he gave us some good insight into how the case against you is technically baseless. You know, and then if you look at the matrix, if you even believe that you violated the rules, it only says 30 in a year. It doesn't lead to termination. And it goes to the very thing that the panel talked about, which they reviewed the disparity system and said it's just arbitrary. You just make it up, depends on people's political affiliations and bias. And that's exactly what happened to Sal, because I say it over and over again. If you strip it away, it's not because, I represent him. His whole case hinges on, I think. Not I can prove, but I think. And when I did the same thing with the witnesses for the city attorney objected, which is bizarre, because that's what they did to Sal. I said, hey, but what about these people associated with Mr. Lucchese crime family, Jimmy Rodriguez? Oh, well, we don't know why they was associated. Well, shit, that's the same thing you don't know about him. It's just the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life, such circular reasoning, and that's what I have to deal with a lawyer. People, circular reason, courts with their bias and bullshit with their circular reasoning. And see, this is all AI's catching now, because years ago you couldn't get it, but now you can put reason and see how they do this illogical fucking shit too. The bottom line is, Sal shouldn't have been terminated. This is crazy, the case against him. But it boils down to, we don't like you. We went after you, not because they know him personally, because, oh, he was a Proud Boy. He was this, he was that, he was this. Meanwhile, none of that association was good. What they overlooked is the important part. No, he didn't access the database. No, he didn't search this. No, he didn't do that. No, he didn't do it. Well, we think he's being a uncompensated security. Based on what? A picture. No records, no nothing. How do you come up with that bullshit? And that's why when you people that are saying these comments, you're being very, very insensitive, because these are people's real lives. So when I do this stuff and when I argue about it, it's because I believe in it. No, someone put like $. If you knew how much work I do on these cases, you know damn well it's not the money that motivates me. What motivates me is how people get their rights trampled upon. And you wish that somebody like me come along, because otherwise they'll charge you $100,000, $200,000 for the stuff I do. The point I'm making is that the worst thing you could ever deal with life is to be falsely accused of something. And then you're fighting like hell to get out of a false accusation with no basis other than I feel and I think. Who the fuck told you to think? How about proving? How do you know he's an uncompensated security guard? But if you knew that, you would know the Guardians Association did it for Martin Luther King. I can go on and on with all this stuff. Who cares? It's all First Amendment stuff. But they don't care. You know why they don't care? Because it's not them. And everyone thinks it's funny until it happens to you. It's sad.
That's what I put out. Marlon said it great here. It says, firing Sal fit the agenda of that day, which was to put pressure on cops to shut up and go along with the destruction of American law enforcement. Essentially, that's what they wanted. Now it's funny how the thing completely does a 360. Now MAGA is the way to you have to be. You see the guys that were MAGA going, whoa, what, we're not going along with this kind of stuff. It's done a complete 360. and the people that were on my side then, right, they're gone. If has anyone even paid attention, you notice how it's basically, we're sitting up here, we're guys fighting the system, but
no. Sal, let's talk about the real deal. You know how much shit I took for taking this case? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I know.
I got a lot of shit for taking Sal's case. Oh, he's a racist. He's this. He's that. He's this. Oh, I got all kinds of shit. You know what I said? I don't give a fuck. He's a racist. You know why I don't fucking care? Because he got a First Amendment right. So I took his case anyway. Not that I thought he was a racist. My point is I don't give a fuck. It's the same reason why I represented Ed Polstein, but they badmouthed me on the rant. But there wouldn't be a fucking rant if it was for Eric Sanders, because guess who represented him? I did. How he got his pension? I did it, because I was a managing attorney in another law firm when Bloomberg and Kelly went after him because he snuck things through the security booth to show that the security breach was breachable. And they went after him and fired him. And guess what happened? Settlement. Who represent him? Eric Sanders. Look it up. My point is, I don't give a fuck what anybody's politics are. What I care about is someone's rights. That's what this is all about. That's why I represent people, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't care if they're popular. Matter of fact, if they're unpopular, I want to represent them more, because that's who really needs help. Not the ones who bullshit and get drinking buddies and all that. They don't need help. They're being spoon-fed and dragged along. It's the people who don't have the power, like Faison, like Greco, and like all the other people out there. So if you think this is all a game, it's not a game until it happens to you. And the worst thing you could ever do is interfere with someone's livelihood. And then they're trying to figure out how to survive and how to do all this stuff. And then that's when suicide ideation go up and everything else. These are real people, impact real things. It's not a fucking game.
You got in the chat, Corey Pegues. Shout out to Corey. Says Eric Sanders is the effing man.
Yeah, no, I don't parse words, and believe me, if I can go in court to tell somebody judge what I think about their bullshit too, and some of your shit is fucking illogical. What the fuck are you writing? You know I ain't following law, but I let the circuit courts write the decisions and tell them, excuse me, there's a Sixth Amendment. That's for jury. That's not for you to make a decision. They got to keep prodding them that they're trying to sit like the elite. But then when I was in law school, my professor, Rowan, God rest his soul, he talked about that. He said, you're going to go as a lawyer, you're going to cite the case, the law, the briefs, and all stuff, and be absolutely right. And you're going to get denied, or you're going to get overruled, or you're going to get your case dismissed. Why? Because the person sits there like they're King Solomon. And that's exactly what happens. And that's what's happening in these cases all the time. So people think being a plaintiff's lawyer is easy. It's not, because you're fighting negative narratives all the time.
Yeah. So I wanted you to give the update on that. And it was one other thing, because I mentioned it on Friday's show, and that's Detective Smith, who was another much maligned person. And it was another hit piece by the New York Post. And you were in the trial room. It was a complete disaster as far as what they were presenting. I don't know if you want to talk about that, because
okay. So it's a public hearing. So, and those who know me know I believe in public transparency. I wish more people would have showed up, because you would have got to see a show. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the shit that's done to people in the police department. And I went from being a lawyer to somehow they try to undermine me again. Meanwhile, the law's on my side. And I wrote a 23-page response to this to show it. But I also got on my soapbox. So I went on between being a lawyer to a reverend. And the reason why I laugh about it, because when I worked in 113, you don't know, my last command was in 113, on Guy R. Brewer, which is the main boulevard that goes through the 113 into the 105, to the 103 in South Jamaica. There's a church on 112th Avenue and Guy R. Brewer. And I took a picture of the sign that says Reverend Dr. E. Sanders. So my partner used to tease me all the time. So, Eric, man, I can't believe you. You're a bad person. I say, yeah, don't you see my church over there? So I got in church with this case. And what I did is I called the department out for the sanctimonious bullshit behavior they have towards members of the service. I said, you talk about suicide, you talk about all these fucking things, but yet you treat yourself like fucking shit. I don't call them members of the service. They're not MOSs to me. They're men and women doing a job, trying to earn a living, trying to take care of their family, trying to have some kind of wealth, so when they retire, they can at least have some kind of standard of living. And you take them and treat them like fucking shit. This woman There's no doubt about it. The department believes and knows that she was taking care of her mother. But I knew now, because when I took case, I didn't know this part. She was taking care of her mother with cervical cancer for 4 fucking years. You know how she was doing it? She was doing it to support all her partners and other people in other commands, because what they didn't talk about was the mother was a 30-year member of the community council, and she was always a community activist. She was intricately involved in the police department, politics, and community. And you know what the thanks they all got? Fucking she's stealing. What the fuck? How the fuck do you steal and everybody knows? Are you like dumb to even say that? So my whole premise argument was, once you look at the reasonable accommodation, federal, state, local law, the only thing the employer is required to say, I need help. Once they do that, the law attaches. You know what they did in this case? Henderson can't grant that. So why are we questioning Henderson? Isn't he an executive? He's an executive, right? You're assuming that he knows the rules, right? He knows the rules. He's enforcing a policy for years. Now let's say he doesn't know the fucking rules. So now you want to take it and criminalize it. The problem is she was taking care of mom. Oh, and by the way, what they didn't talk about, she was taking care of herself. Because if you've ever gone through that experience, and I know Sal had that experience, it's not just the person you're taking care of your loved one. Shit, you're trying to maintain your own self because you're getting burned out by this. There's such a thing called caregiver PTSD. There's a real thing because you're dealing with the emotional stress of seeing everything. Because you look at this person, you remember when you were a little kid and say, hey, mommy and daddy, when you were small, and then you watch them over the years, or they were strong, they were vibrant, they were smart, they were together, and all of a sudden you start seeing them regressing. And there's nothing you could do to stop it. And they're asking you, am I going to be okay? And you're not telling the truth.
And this is why I resonate with Detective Smith, because
right.
Nothing
That's
like
right. We're going to talk about you because you experienced. That's why I mentioned a little bit about going too much. You watched them deteriorate.
Yeah, to watch. I can't describe to you what it feels like to watch your parent die in front of your eyes, and then having an internal affairs buffoon sitting outside that window, acting as if, you know, what's Sal Greco doing in the hot? What's he gonna? I'm gonna drive down to Florida to go see my friend, and whatever the hell Jeremy Ornstein was cooking up with the FBI and Congress together. But that's I can't begin to tell you what that does. And to have Eric Adams still fighting this case shows you what kind of a human being he is. He is the worst human being walking on earth. He's now going to Israel, just so people know.
But this is the point I'm making about these people. I mean, they spun this whole fucking narrative. Someone was talking about, oh, he's having a relationship with the cop. No fucking relationship with Smith. Why can't these people just be professionals, being compassionate? Why can't you have that? The one knucklehead said, and it's in the record, so I'll say it, Wilson Richards, some guy in a fucking A3, he's a disaster. And I hope he's listening to that. I said it. And I wrote in the paper, he's an insensitive asshole. And I could say it because I'm from the same culture. And guess what? I know how to do cop speak too. He's a fucking asshole. He's got the audacity to sit there and say, oh, your mother's in the ground. Why can't she come back to work? Yeah, motherfucker, because she's suffering. And you can't have her out there. She can't even take care of her goddamn self. And she certainly can't back you up. What the fuck are you talking about? And he actually admitted that on the stand. He acknowledged it and then try to explain it. My point is, by the time we did all this, first the commissioner was kind of trying to express to me like I don't understand what I'm talking about. I know this craft well. By the time I finished, she says, I don't see any mens rea. Who used the word mens rea? Me. I say ain't no fucking mens rea. There's not no damn crime here. I said, this woman is just asking for help. I want you guys to try to resolve this. What is their resolve? Oh, well, she was supposed to fill out a document. Not according to the law. All she's got to do is tell you it's the employer's obligation to fill out the documents, to make sure the records are being documented properly. What other time have you heard me say that? In the so-called overtime bullshit. It's the employer's obligation, not the employee. They like to flip it on the fucking employee. Yep. And that's what they do all the time. So when these people put these dumbass comments in here, well, you know, shut the fuck up. because what they're doing is they're flipping employment law on you, and you don't even see it. That's the scary part about it. You don't even see it. Oh, we could just look in any hard drive. That's their equipment, except if they're doing a criminal investigation. Then guess what? The cops don't lose their Fifth Amendment rights to not say shit. I don't want to answer any questions. The Constitution applies to police officers too. I know people don't like to think that, and I know some of you drink the Kool-Aid and the Jesus juice so much. The department. That's not how it works in the real world. Mm-hmm. Police officers have fucking rights. And the bottom line, after all this is said and done, there's no proof she stole shit. There's no proof she stole anything. She was open and notorious. They all knew where she was. Kinsella, the first deputy commissioner, been to her house with the mother sick, watching her mother deteriorate. She's telling the mother she's going to be okay, knowing damn well she's not. She's on her way out, and she's trying to maintain her mother's soul. That's all she was doing. And we can't be compassionate about that. We're a fucked up organization. And I say it because I love the police department. That's why I'm critical of it. This shit is fucked up. That's not how you're supposed to do. There shouldn't be a job for me to do that. And that's what I said at the end. I said, I'm embarrassed to fucking be here. This is bullshit. And the bottom line is, there's no theft. Marjorie was there. They all knew who the mother was. She didn't make any entries in any laws. She didn't change anything. They all made the changes. You know why they said they did it? Because they thought that's what the chief wanted, and they thought it was lawful. The department tried to make them bad and try to make it unlawful. I said, if that's true, that means 25 cops should have been arrested for official misconduct and everything else related to fucking theft. This is some fucking crazy logic. That's the dumbest shit I ever heard. So by the time it finished, she asked for case law. And I'm going to put the case law up today so people can read what I wrote in rebuttal, in further support, because there was something done. Because people like to say race don't matter. Oh yeah, race matters. You just don't like to fucking talk about it. Because the same attorney that's representing Faison is in this case and did the same kind of criminal charge bullshit that I talked about. All right. And it's a public hearing, so I could talk about it all day long because you have a right to know about it. The bottom line is she should never have been brought up on charges, and it's disgraceful conduct. And Tish, who's a police commissioner, should have done something about it because I sent a letter to her. She should have done something about it. I don't care if you like Eric Sanders. It's not personal. I'm making arguments. That's what lawyers do, make arguments. Most of these people don't know me personally. They don't know me. They never want to know me. Actually, when they come on here, you get to see that I do have personality. I'm not just a mean ogre guy. I actually have some personality. But you don't make it about me. Make it about what you're supposed to do, which is the right thing. The same thing with Sal. Everyone knows the shit is wrong. It's wrong. How do you do that? How do you sleep at night destroying people? That's why the man came on. So anybody think it was wrong for him to come on? No, because he has real feelings. It's not that, he's a chief and all that. No, he's a real person.
His life is destroyed. Well, now, forever and a day, those articles, they don't go away. It's,
you know what they could have done, Sal? By you saying someone's unsafe can destroy that man's business.
Yeah, they could. That could destroy. People don't want to do business with him anymore because they read whatever, and you're not allowed to. He can't defend. You're not. I want to tell you, you defending yourself.
So wait. I'm going to tell you about Sal. I don't really talk about him. I'm going to talk about him. You're asking me what happened to him by you saying all this shit about him. Oh, he's this. He's with that. He's with this. He can't fucking get a motherfucking job. How can you not get a job in America that's supposed to be the most prosperous country in the world? And you barely can survive. Why? Not because you're not qualified, not because you don't have a skill set that can quantify into money, which is easily security work, or because you got to live down a decision that says that you're some fucking insurrectionist. What kind of shit is that? And nobody thinks that's wrong, and people laugh at them, they ridicule them. Oh, Sal, that's why they did this to you. You guys are but then again, you're drunks and all half the shit anyway, but you get fucking skirted along in the police department. But you don't look at the effects it has on people.
Oh, not to mention how I lost my father, and it's just it's a long, winding, like tragic tale almost. And you're like, but I didn't do anything. You're friends with this guy. I mean, I don't know. And then yet everybody in my case, I don't even know these people. I know that everybody got pardoned. Everybody who's doing a book deal, who's doing it. I wasn't even in this thing. Why am I still suffering the ramifications of something I never did? And I wasn't involved with any of these people. I don't know what to say.
Because you know why? Because the police culture and I represent more than police officers, by the way. It's just I like representing police officers because they have no fucking rights. They act like they're a bunch of like robots. The public think, we could just mistreat the cops. No, they're people, and that's why I like to represent police officers. But the bottom line is, I see comments like he destroyed lives. No, breaking fucking corruption is not destroying your fucking life. All right. So if you keep saying that narrative, I know the narrative because you know there's some in the culture thinks cops supposed to do what the fuck they want to do. They drink, they bullshit, they supposed to be doing barriers, they fucking getting drunk. Come on, man. I've been part of this culture a long time. So you can't blow smoke up my ass. I'm here to educate the public too, baby. And the bottom line is when you see things like this happening, he ain't fucking destroying no lives. He's breaking fucking cultures of bullshit. And that's what you don't like because, hey, it's our job. No, it's not your fucking job. It's everyone that's qualified to be here. But the problem is this shit's been going on since 1645, and that's where he ran into the problem. Because if he'd have went along with everything, guess what? We would have never heard about this shit. Never. Just like with Madre, Caban, and all of them, and I don't know him personally. I'm not a Madre fan. I'm not. But I know one thing. You think that shit is new, what they were supposedly doing? The fuck out of here. It was going on when I was a cop. It was going on under fucking Kelly. Kelly's a great guy. We're still dealing with fucking lawsuits from his bullshit. Fucking 11, 12 years later. Bratton, he's a great fucking guy. I remember when I was the president of Guardians, they were talking about it in Boston. They said that fucking guy is corrupt. Guess what? Police department was fucked up. But they all give him great accolades. Oh, Bratton, he's a great guy.
He's a great guy.
He was an articulate guy. He was a smooth guy. He was personable, but it was just as fucked up. And they were promoting who the fuck they want. And then certain people have certain relationships that I won't name, but they sit on top of judgment of everyone. That means people are at the very top right now.
Yep.
We don't want to talk about it because they say the people are married, like nobody knows what the fuck they did. The bottom line is they're a bunch of hypocrites and sanctimonious bullshit you deal with all the time. The bottom line is whenever you try to break corruption and fucking things like this is the pushback you get. So they'll say things like, you, Sal, your show is fucked up. You must hate the fucking job. I'm like, what do? You drink Jesus juice while you say it? You hate the job. I love the job. I fucking love the job. No, we're trying to fucking break this shit. Oh, he's an ambulance chaser. I don't fucking like ambulances.
That's the other one too. You mentioned something. So before you go, Madry. Over the weekend, you understand that there's been a grand jury this whole time, and now that Alvin Bragg was reelected, it's Alvin Bragg's office, probably in conjunction with the feds in regards to everything that occurred. So obviously, you represent Lieutenant Epps. Do you know of anything that's going on, or have you heard of anything? Because this is all over the place right now.
No, actually, I saw it in the paper. I didn't even see it when it first hit the paper. I'm usually pretty good at it. No, I don't know what's going on, but I will say it unequivocally right now, and I'll say it again. I believe my client from the very beginning, and I still believe her. And there's a lot going to come out that no one knows about because no one knows it better than me. And when she keeps going through these pictures and finding things that put back the false narrative, like I'll give one, there was no folders that had these documents. Well, whoop, what do we find? A photo with motherfucking folder with some papers in it. Oh, well, there were no contracts. They thought they got rid of everything, but the cleanup crew, whoever they are, you know who you are, they didn't take all the books. She still has one book with the contracts and the promotions and shit. You're going to learn about that too. Oh, the stamp that Donald's talking about, because he's a temporary police commissioner, he didn't know what the fuck was going on. A lot of stuff that he's put in his lawsuit, because I read it and I'm going to talk about it. It's all the shit for the newspaper and pieces of the guy. He didn't know what the hell was going on. But Epps got a picture of the stamp though, because I put it out there. So she couldn't have worked all those hours. Why is there a picture of her in police headquarters overnight? Cops are the biggest fucking haters I ever seen in my life. I've never seen a culture of people who try to destroy each other because of false narrative. But the bottom line is there's going to be a lot of stuff to come about this. Oh, and by the way, I mentioned I'm going to be bringing a case. I'm going to be bringing a case, and I'm saying it. It's another female officer who is subjected to all those little videos you have floating around in the world of Epps that you think is a fucking joke. I didn't forget about it. I'm going to go after your little WhatsApp groups and everything because there is litigation against you coming very soon.
Interesting.
I didn't forget about it. Even if the investigators won't do anything about it civilly, I could do something about it. And hopefully you can get to turn over a lot of your money that you're saving up. We like money. We like to take money out of your 457s and your little houses that you have. Fuck it. I don't care about your house. All I care about is my client.
I would hate that some high-ranking executives might be involved in that, but you didn't hear that one from me.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, it's always great to have you on. Thank you for also coming on with Chief Winston Faison.
Yeah, it's great. I just want to say this other funny story. Because people say, oh, these cases go nowhere. No, they go a lot of places. Sometimes they go places very well. I remember, and I'll talk about this Larry Jackson case. I remember when I took his case. I don't know if you know that case. He was a guy, he was drunk off duty. He beat up the cops, this, that, and that. All bullshit. All bullshit. Black guy off duty. He calls the police for help. They beat the shit out of him. Trial room, 45 days. Oh, he beat the cops up. He did this and that. Got in front of a federal jury. I got one cop to flip. And you know who the police officer was? Gelada, a guy I worked with in the 113. And I got him to finally acknowledge that, guess who didn't hit them? Larry Jackson. My client was fucking 6'4" and almost 300 pounds. If he hit you, you're going to fucking feel it. He's going to break your body. He ain't hit nobody. He was trying to tell him that I'm a cop. And by the way, the 911 call also said it. They just gave the wrong command, but they said his name and everything. By the time the federal jury finished, it was supposed to take 2 weeks. And this is for all the people who say these things don't stick. Sometimes they do stick, but they don't want me in front of another jury, because I'm going to tell you what happened the last time we were in front of a jury. So didn't connect. After a week and a half, we finished early. It was all these students from China that was here, and they were studying to be lawyers, but they're in America. So they were listening. So, Mr. Sander, you're doing very good. It was funny. I remember the woman come up to me. I said, no. Instead of it taking 2 weeks, it took a week and 2 days. And this is what the jury said. They asked for 3 things. They asked for the laptop, the video, and they asked for the pictures of the cop who claimed he was beat up. Because I said, look at his face on the stand right now. Look at his picture. Don't they look the same? They came back 10 minutes later. We want to have lunch. So we have to go every time they read a note. You got to go back in front of the jury. Read the note. Then we went back and they say, got another note. Oh, shit, we got to go back again. Because you don't know what's going to happen. You're the lawyer, you're the client. I don't know what's happening because we don't know what's in the room. So they come back later, and this is what they say. We want to know how much to award Mr. Jackson. And I said, Larry, that means you won. I said, for some reason, I think it's going to be a big number. Fast forward, by the time they finished, that jury awarded that man $15 million. And they never seen that before, and it's never been done before, and it hasn't been done by anybody, and a solo practitioner, and yes, a black guy. That's right. That's a record book thing. To this day, that shit still stands. He took a settlement for $5 million. But everyone says, oh, it wouldn't stick, it wouldn't stick, it wouldn't stick. Every time people tell me it won't stick, that's why I take them better, because I like difficult cases. Because what will happen is you have people in the society, they'll naysay you. They'll say, Sal, fuck Sal. He's a racist anyway. Fuck him. He's glad he lost his job. That's exactly why I represent him, because he has a right to be represented and have his story told the way it really is, not just spin narratives. And that's why I do what I do. So, yeah, cases are hard. I don't always win them. But the more important thing is, I give the person a voice, which is what they're really looking for more than anything, because they know there's no guarantees. But the one thing they will have a guarantee is I'm going to fight like hell for them. And that's a fact.
I agree. I mean, look, the people you've had on, other people you're talking about, other people you represent. I resonate with them just because, I don't look at feelings. I'm looking at how they've been treated, and it's the same system over and over again, how they do it. And eventually something's got to give, because this has to stop. And
just one thing quick, because I see comments about being made sex. It's sad, because some of these people in law enforcement, you do understand that sex has to be consensual. If there's power dynamics and everything else, you do know there's no such thing as consent. And it's sad that you have people in law enforcement even make comments like that. You're not suitable for law enforcement. You really aren't. Because if you believe that power dynamics don't have to do with consent, you're in the wrong business. All you got to do is research and you'll find that out, because cops are people. They don't come there and just drop into a uniform. They have backgrounds, Things that happen to them when they're children, just like everybody else. But you don't want people to know about your shit, but you make evaluations of everyone else.
'Cause there's some people that do that, and you know, it is what it is at this point. Like I just, you know, I've dealt with so much over the last few years. I guess the last question for you would be, Pat Don, you said, Eric, did Detective Smith contact the DEA and ask to use the donated time bank so she could care for her mother?
No, she doesn't have to. She can go right to the department. Remember, under federal, state, and local law, you have to give an employee reasonable accommodation. So I know they asked that as a loaded question, but that's so dumb. You see what I'm talking about? This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about federal, state, and local law. You're talking about some fucking union shit. The union's not your employer. The city of New York is your employer, and they have to follow the law. And
Henderson did approve that, even though he didn't show up to the trial, but and he was addressed as.
Wait a minute. Oh, that's the thing I forgot to mention since you got it. Another thing that became a problem for the police department is something that is real. Everyone has some sort of discretion. Police officers have discretion and how you use it against them. I said, wait a minute. Before you asked for this accommodation, who helped you take care of your mother? Oh, the cops from the 8-3. They used to pick my mother up, take her to the hospital. I said, whoa. Is that police work? No. Oh, so you mean they used their little bit of discretion to work around to help you while you were working, right? Yeah, see how I use the word discretion? And then I said to sergeants, what do you have? Discretion, right? Yeah. I said, how much discretion do you have? Oh, I don't know. I said, because it's not written anywhere, is it? No. Discretion's only good if someone likes it. If they don't like it, then it becomes, you're stealing, you're doing this, you're doing that. The lieutenant admitted it, and guaranteed, if Henderson would admit it, he would have had discretion also. And then the internal affairs investigator, he said there's discretion. I said, have you ever been a chief? No. So how do you know how much discretion he has? In order for them to make that case, they would have had to bring in another chief to say he didn't have discretion, but there's a problem because then that's subjective, because your discretion may not be his discretion, and the bottom line, it's not written anywhere. Subjective bullshit. That's where the case was. Hardcore, shut the fuck up. You honeypot and hardcore, you need to grow up. I hope you don't have women in your family. See how I'm a straight shooter? Because one day, I guarantee you, if you're a woman and you have a woman in your family or daughter, they've experienced sexual harassment and unwanted behavior that they don't even tell you about. Hardcore. These guys are fucking clowns, but you're good for business, though. I love it. And you know what? This is a podcast. So I'm doing it this way because I want to show that, see, I'm from the same cop culture. So I'm not intimidated by anybody. And I'll tell it, and I'll call you on your bullshit. Hope you don't have women in your family, because I guarantee they're being treated that way.
I would hope not.
They are. Listen, if you have women in your family, we know what life is. We know women are harassed all the time. They don't complain about it because they know. They're ridiculed, they're marginalized, they're told, you're a hoe, you're a honeypot. Can you imagine someone telling his mother she's a fucking honeypot? Why would you use that language with people? A honeypot? What the fuck is that?
That's terrible.
I
wouldn't say that. Look, I say this has been one hell of a show. It's like two shows in one. You got a lot of everything. SandersFirmPC.com. You'll have something up there shortly with this. We'll be in contact soon. We got to address legal matters, and following Eric at Esquire_Sanders on X. I got everything right.
Take it easy.
We'll be talking soon.
And guys out there, stay safe out there. Remember, follow the tactics. They're going to save you. All right.
Yeah. And the patrol guide. Final note before we leave. I don't know if the Jack, if you're still around, if you want to pop on.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of posturing and talking about DEI and giving publicity to Jeffrey Madry and John Schell and the idiots of the police department. So I think there was a really good point made at the beginning of the broadcast in relation to Melissa DeRosa, who served who served three score and 7 to 10 years ago, whatever it's been at this point. But anyway, Melissa DeRosa, who served as Andrew Cuomo's Secretary of State when he was governor, and has been his top advisor, top aide, whatever you want to call it. She went on New York One and talked about how Cuomo never had a chance of winning the mayoral election, which is something that we all knew, but also that kind of exposes another impropriety going on in the political world in New York State, because Elise Stefanik, who's now running for governor on the Republican ticket for New York State, was good friends with Melissa DeRosa. They grew up together, went to high school, middle school at the Albany Academy for Girls together. Did have kind of a professional falling out a couple years ago. Nice. Remember when Andrew Cuomo was directing masks from impoverished communities in upstate New York to downstate New York with the feeling that there was a larger population of people who needed them.
Shutting them down.
Yeah, they had a falling out over that. But the point here is you have a Republican running for governor, and you had the top advisor, who's technically a Democrat, who got all of the Republican support during this previous cycle. And now you're starting to see the connection get exposed between Republicans and Democrats. It has nothing to do with unity or partisan affiliation or anything. It's all about personal friendships nowadays. So I'm happy that everyone from New York State is getting to see the WWE match, because when Rey Mysterio takes off his mask, he's wearing the same one underneath. And that's kind of the fallacy that had been hidden for years, right? Because in New York City politics, you have a lot of posturing. You have people sticking their tongues at each other, making muscles, going like this, doing all this nonsense like we're spectators sitting on the outside to watch it. But at the end of the day, they're all friends, going to the same dinners, hanging out with one another. Yeah. Don't believe the nonsense about the falling out, too, where they never spoke to each other one again. Remember, Andrew Cuomo hadn't spoken to Donald Trump in years. That was until he needed support and called him before anyone else.
How about the fact that you glossed over this one? Stefanik had endorsed Curtis Lewa. So in a crazier twist than you just mentioned, she actually supported and she endorsed Curtis Lewa, but she's best friends with Melissa DeRosa.
Yeah, and apparently earlier in their careers too, this rumor has been substantiated, so I feel comfortable talking about it. Anytime Stefanik was going through adversity, guess who was the first person she called when she had any trouble?
Elise Stefanik?
No. Well, when Stefanik was having trouble, she would call DeRosa because
DeRosa, yeah.
DeRosa's father founded this big-time lobbying firm in Albany, which DeRosa interned at when she was 16 years old. And she's so experienced, has a number of connections, that anytime her friend was going through adversity, as a Republican, she would seek advice from the other side of the aisle. So I'm happy that we can expose all of the improprieties that are going on behind the curtain, because there are a lot of them, especially in New York State politics. And have a day, people. Enjoy the WWE match, but know that when the athletes go behind the curtain and hang out and drink beer with one another, it's all a game. It's all a show. Don't believe any of it.
And you might be sitting next to the bar stool of a certain disgraced former chief of department who has a bad ankle. Because that's where you go. They go to those gin bars, and you might have a mob associate come over to you. You never know. A certain mob.
It's a very interesting cast of characters with Letitia James and Jimmy Rodriguez and Stefanik and DeRosa, and I mean, DeRosa's had a very interesting.
Are you hearing the rumors that a certain Republican politician was at Somos? Because I keep hearing them over and over again. I don't want to mention the name. I'm hearing a certain Republican, might have been Republicans, but they were at Somos. So you know, because after we saw what we put out in the beginning of the show with Melissa DeRosa, it's really one team. I don't know how you guys are still believing this stuff. You know, you think it's like Democrat and Republican. It clearly, after this election, you know, you got to be questioning that. You got to be smart enough to be questioning that. And for all the Sharia law stuff, I didn't know that you. But for someone who wants to implement Sharia law, he's hanging out at gay nightclubs and with a mob associate and self-admitted criminal out in Puerto Rico. So
yeah. So I think I have a new saying for the political uniparty. Notice I describe it as a uniparty, not Democrats and Republicans. Whining, dining, and pocket lining takes priority over everything else, right? Yep. You like that Walt Clyde Frazier style mantra, whining, dining, pocket lining, because it's indicative of what they're doing, right? They whine, they drink and eat expensive foods and drinks. They dine, they go to tables and schmooze with one another, talk to each other, have fun, like they're fraternizing, like they're not enemies in front of the cameras, which is another story. And then they like to pocket line, because this is a business. right? Politics is a business, and they find a way to benefit one another and the lobbying groups and the big businesses and corporations that are behind each other. And they're all in unity at the end of the day, which is the saddest reality of all of this.
And speaking of all that wine dining and pocket lining, if you looked at the conflict of interest board, there was quite a few complaints in regards to that, because who is wine dining and pocket lining? Because sometimes it's the taxpayer that's footing that bill. Just so people, we're on the record, Lone Silence has a hysteria. Keep this up and you guys won't get invited when Mamdani opens Halal Sofrito.
Halal sofrito. Well, this is honestly the funniest part of the slander toward Mamdani. Guys, Mamdani is like a rich trust fund kid who goes out to bars, hung out with predominantly white Upper West Side kids, smoked blunts in Riverside Park, got chased around by the cops when he was drinking 40s of Old English. Like, he's probably not even aware of some of the things you're slandering him over. He probably doesn't even know that Hassan Piker is some 9/11 conspiracy theorist or anything like this.
He probably has no idea that. He's like, who is this guy? I'll shake his hand, whatever. Let's keep moving along.
This is a dumb, uninformed clout chaser who's just going on to the next grift, whether it be hanging out at a bar, fist pumping with people, meeting up with construction workers. And you guys are throwing stones at him saying he's a terrorist, he's an Islamist, he's a jihadist. And it's like, when you see Stefanik and Cuomo using the same talking points, I'm thinking to myself, are they collaborating on this? Is this a unified effort where Cuomo was going to try and get into office and then he was going to go advocate for Stefanik? I mean, there's all sorts of cronyism going on.
How much is those drinks again? What are they people paying?
$13 for a 12-ounce PBR and $15 for a glass of. Someone texted that to me who was at the watch party, and they're like, I was expecting like a 25% off or some sort of deal, but $15 for a glass of wine. I believe bottles were like $65, which is insane, for like 2023 Pinot Grigio, which isn't exactly like an aged French wine or anything like that. Like for crappy surface level wines. And this is the guy who's going to make bus service free, which Kathy Hochul and he jointly acknowledged is never going to happen.
I want you to know that actually somebody that was waiting to be on the line, because they're covering he actually told me, yeah, everything Jack said is true. He was there. He goes, Cuomo open bar, Mamdani, you had to pay through the nose to get a drink. For a guy that says everything is free, he goes, yeah, he is establishment Democrat all the way. I mean, Pat Donahue said it best, Ric Flair-esque. That's what you got. It's like WWE. This is, we told you so. Three-card Mamdani.
It's sad because like, they actually look at themselves as the participants in WWE. It's like Hulk Hogan wrestling The Undertaker versus Rey Mysterio, and then you have the Batista Bomb guy coming on. Like, they literally view themselves as WWE characters, with us as spectators in the audience, like cheering and clapping and eating popcorn and drinking the $12 beers that were being sold at Mamdani's watch party. Like, they don't view us as being smart, intelligent people who are capable of having a real conversation with them and understanding what's actually going on. Yet they're making all of the policies and laws and bills that are going to be impacting our lives. It's really an unbelievable, abusive relationship dynamic.
Jack, this is the best from Marlon. He says, why does a Muslim have beer at his event? I thought he was bringing Sharia law. And then Joel Ramirez tops. So no one's even talking about this. If you want to keep saying this nonsense with this guy, Mamdani, have to see who was invited to the White House yesterday. I know Al-Qaeda with a 10 million bounty on his head, dead or alive. I honestly don't care for what they say about Mamdani, because the guy they invited yesterday to the White House is actually an Al-Qaeda guy. I guess
really?
Yeah.
So that's the irony. The president himself is like bringing people who are actually affiliated with terrorist organizations into his inner circle, ignorant in some cases, perhaps, that they are affiliated with these organizations. But then you have this rich trust fund frat boy who's dancing it up with the next person who's hot on the scene that he doesn't even know who they are in most cases. Yet everyone's accusing him of things that he's not even close to being guilty of. And by the way, he's like confused by some of these accusations. Like, You guys
He's confused.
I mean, it doesn't take a lot to confuse this guy. I mean, he's confused by most of the bills that he was sponsoring up in Albany. Just look at all the people he appointed from the de Blasio administration that are going to be holding his hand on a day-to-day basis. But he's confused by these accusations because he's saying to himself, wait, how am I like a crazy Muslim when I'm out partying all night, like, and having beers at my events? Like, the accusations don't align with one another, and that's where they're very short.
This is really like almost like a to be continued. Like Marlon just said, this guy had a $10 million bounty on his head 6 months ago
because he wasn't Muslim enough, and now he's too Muslim for the people. I mean, give me a break. Also, is it like you're Italian, you're of Catholic faith, I'm Jewish. Stop weaponizing religion, because it's honestly like toxic, and it devalues cases where people actually are being discriminated against. Like,
Jack, you're actually hammering down on a certain councilwoman who's just nonstop using religion. Like, it's nonstop on her ex accounts or religion. You're like, what are you going to actually do something for your community? And what do we? Yeah, she wants to bring the Prime Minister of Israel in. What do you want to do? You want to taunt this guy who's the mayor? I mean, you guys are partying together. I don't know. I find that bizarre. You talking about the religion thing, and this certain people can't stop doing it to this day. Still.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the person that you're referring to, who will leave unnamed because I don't want to give her any more publicity, is getting, bribed by oligarchs in Russia or the Ukraine. If there's some sort of foreign influence involved here. But it's like she continuously says, oh, he said he was going to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. So we've all said things that we might have regretted. He also said he was going to give away free bus service, but said he wasn't going to do that this weekend.
No, he's not going to do it. No, I told you.
Stop taking everything the guy says at face value, come back down to planet Earth, and start caring about your constituents for once. Because last time I checked, Benjamin Netanyahu is coming to the UN building. He's not going to South Brooklyn, so he's not going to be doing anything that can help the people in your actual neighborhood. So stop worrying about nonsense and start caring about the things that actually matter. I don't know how many times we have to sit here and say it until we're blue in the face. Like, you guys are elected officials. There needs to be more accountability.
Marlon said it best. They want us too distracted to notice mortgages will now be for 50 years. By the way, I don't know if anybody saw that last night. You know, the president was on with Laura Ingraham. 600,000 Chinese students in our universities. And then he says, I know MAGA better than MAGA does. I don't know what to say to him. Who is this guy? This is not the guy that we elected from.
You know things are bad too when Laura Ingraham, who's as MAGA as it possibly can get, is like, wait a second. No, there actually is a difference between a 40 and a 50-year mortgage. Like, even she was saying, like, that's a little bit outlandish. You're pretty much telling us if you take out a $300,000 mortgage today, 50 years from now, you will have paid the bank $650,000 to $700,000. So even though you did get to kind of stretch the loan out, most of your lifelong living expenses have gone toward paying off a mortgage, which you took out half a century ago.
Yeah,
I mean, and if we're going to be doing $50 mortgages, where does it end? Are we going to be doing 10-year plans for buying new iPhones? Are we going to have people pay month-long mortgages for the grocery bill that they just took out to fill up their fridge last month? I mean, give me a break, guys. Our society is so broke right now with inflation and the cost of living going like this while no one's making any more money, that we're trying to deceptively put more money in people's pockets. Yet in this, it's the same concept with politics. Like, we're all stupid sheep who are supposed to listen to everything that you say and interpret it at face value. And you're the master and the deity, and you can just say and do whatever you want. That's how it goes.
I tell you here, Marlon said 5 years for buying this week's grocery. And Rob Lukesh said free grocery. You forgot already.
No, it was Rob, clarification here, buddy. It was supposed to be city-owned grocery stores with subsidies. City-run grocery stores. Montani already clarified that.
Yes. I tell everybody it's three-card Mamdani. It was a
three-card Mamdani, baby.
I got to give you. I wish I could have him on. I'd be telling him, dude, you are a great salesman. I got to give it to you. I need to take tips from you how to be a salesman, because you completely convinced the people, at least enough of them, that the 3-card Mamdani wasn't real. The minute you got elected that night, that's it. The 3 cards came out. You're like, what are you talking about? Here I am. It was like unbelievable. And there's still people, they're still going against this like they think it's real. They don't realize it's all WWE. It's in your face. You could present them a fact like you saw in the comments today with everything. You could have facts and they just ignore it all, you know. And I just want to add that the Giants fired their head coach today. They are a disaster. What a mess the New York Giants are. But hey, the New York Rangers won last night.
Yeah, that was actually yesterday, and I was kind of upset that I'm not even a Giants fan, but for the sake of hoping that there's good football in New York City before we pay off these 50-year mortgages, I was hoping that the Giants left Brian Daboll in Chicago, because there's no way you can lose all of these games where you have a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, and that comes down to organizational malpractice, which falls on the head coach, whether it be game planning, play calling down the stretch. I mean, it's just a disaster in Giants land right now.
I just want to point out something, Jack. They didn't fire their GM. And you know who their owner is, or at least the part owner of that team is the soccer mom's father. So I don't know. I told you there could be an opening for the soccer mom. She leaves the NYPD. She becomes the general manager of the Giants. Maybe she could do a better job than this idiot Schoen and this other idiot coach that did absolutely nothing for 3 years. And we're going to have another quarterback this weekend because this guy, Jackson Dart, got hurt, got a concussion. And just the Giants are a mess. It's just, you know.
Yeah, you have a rookie quarterback and you're running play actions where he's going head first into defenders. Like that was going to last for very long. He's been in 4 concussion protocols since the season started. Wake up, guys. This isn't college. You're playing against 300-pound linebackers and safeties who are going to crush you if you try and initiate contact with them. So it's not just the playing style and the mismanagement, but also the drastic underachievement. Joe Shane should be safe for the time being because he has drafted some decent players, including Jackson Dart. But the leadership on the sidelines has been absolutely awful. The only good news and perhaps a silver lining here is that we're going to get to see if Mike Kafka is the guy over the final 7 games. Very highly regarded in league circles with a number of head coaching interviews. I wouldn't be surprised if things go well and the Giants are tempted to maybe keep him.
They need some kind of luck because the way they're being run reminds me of how this guy's daughter is running the New York City Police Department. If she is, I don't want to put the two conflate together. What's on tap for tonight with the 10-Foot Tavern?
Yeah, coming up directly when the show is over at this point. No. Tonight, coming up at 7:05, live 19:05 for those of you ex-Leos out there. The 10-4 Tavern, Tom Joyce and Peter Forcelli will be joined by Eugene Roy, former chief of detectives for the Chicago Police Department. And with all the similarities between Chicago and New York, I imagine he's going to have a lot to say. So that should be a fantastic show. Be sure to tune in live on YouTube, X, or wherever else you get your podcasts.
That's right, Jack. And also tomorrow, find us on Filter in the Morning, 8:05 live. John and Eric. Eric will be back. I think Marlon might pop in. You could watch that in the morning. And the Executive Perspective tomorrow at 17:05, 5:05. You'll have Ron and Rob. We're going to have on retired now Lieutenant Commander Stephen Weiss, who I also worked under. He was in the 71st Precinct. Good guy. Was on the running club. You should check that one out. He's a very good guy. Lieutenant Weiss. So shout out to you. I haven't seen you in a couple of years, but I was a rookie when I was working in a 7-1 with him. Good guy. So I guess with that being said, I'm going to see you again on Thursday. Thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for staying with us. It's been a long one, but there was a lot of information there. Thank you to now retired Deputy Chief Winston Faison. You may not like it, or you do like it, but you need to hear the other side of the ledger. Sometimes you can't just have it where the New York Post is dictating things, because New York Post and New York Daily News, remember, that's how they made you believe that I was some kind of insurrectionist. If you believe what and it ends up being a Daily News then corrected that ledger by writing stories about me because they knew whatever they were told was an outright lie. But it is what it is. We can't go back in time and scrub things. But thank you for Winston to come on, today, and also Eric Sanders for clearing the air. Pat Donahue, you've been a real trooper in the comments. I love having you on because you're hysterical. Don't ever there's never anything personal with us. I always you can say whatever you want. You're on Team Sal Greco Show for life. 92 Charlie, same with you. Great having you on. And yes, the Giants. I don't know. I think Soccer Mom would make a great GM, at least. Maybe she could run a team better than her dad. I don't know, because the Giants are a catastrophe. Since they won that Super Bowl with Eli Manning, that second one, which they legitimately won. The first one was the luckiest throw and catch of the century. But that second one, they won legitimate. They have been straight down. They just have not recovered from winning that second Super Bowl. But with that being said, thank you all. I love you all. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, on Rumble, hit the like and Rumble button. On X, please like this, share this out. It's definitely with the low information people or anyone who wants to get informed on what's really going on in the police department, how they do things, because it's institutional, not just who's the mayor. Obviously, this thing's been going on for a long time. We've just to put a spotlight on it, because remember, what happens in NYPD is going to be brought to your local police department. That's you in Oklahoma. That's you in Wyoming. That's you in South Dakota, and so on and so forth. It's just a test run. The biggest police department does something, the littlest one will follow. That's just the name of the game. So with that being said, I'll be signing off from a very, we'll say, chilly South Florida, which, as you know, is a sunny place for shady people. Now, I know you're tired of searching on the web for things and not getting the results you're looking for. I have something for you. FreeSpoke. FreeSpoke is a search engine that is all about authenticity rather than agendas. Labels, media bias, no intrusions, or data leaking, or your data being taken from you. Porn-free, none of those ads, unlimited, unbiased AI, deep dive podcast searching, and you can get it by going to freespoke.app.link/Greco. Use the same link to get a 35% discount on your premium subscription. What are you waiting for, folks? This is the way of the future. FreeSpoke.
What I'm asking New Yorkers for is to look back at all the things I've done as a deputy commissioner for operations, the assistant as assistant commissioner, and my time as a not only as a New Yorker but as a police officer. I get stuff done.
Listen, there was a book that came out that Jasmine Ray wrote, and in the Daily News today, it stated that there was a sexual action that happened in Borough Hall. She reported in that book, and it wasn't. You're a dark, sick person, man. You know that? You're a dark, sick person. Your name was on the byline. And there's some of you that have been covering me. You guys could part. Let me do this. Y'all could depart. Y'all could depart. Some of you have been covering me for 3.5 years. Some of you are so sick and dark, and you're the leader of that. You're one of the most dark writers that I've ever seen in this city. And your personal sick vendetta and the sickness of how you think of over-sexualizing a black man, that in the book is stated that there was a sexual action in Borough Hall. That was never in the book. But that's typical of the sickness and the darkness of your sick mind. You're one of the sickest reporters I know. Go to the next question. You're a sick person.